Welcome back to the Broad Street Benchwarmers podcast. My name is Adam Den, 8th and Limititis, and Michael Cornwell is here with me. We are back for part 2 of our NFL predictions. Part 5 of our NFL predictions, that would be correct.
And 6 and 7
and 6 and 7 and 8, and probably 9 and 10 too, to be honest. So really excited. This has been going great so far. Excited to pick up where we left off with the conference, which I think has less question marks, I would say, maybe than the NFC.
Yeah.
But a lot of interdivision competition, a lot more competitive divisions as a whole, I would say, than the AFC. So a lot of excitement within there. And should we start with the NFC East?
Yep.
Sounds good. So just a brief reminder, we're going to go through all 4 teams in each division, their records from first to last, and then we are going to discuss each individual team. So we will start, Ethan, to my right, with the NFC East.
Okay, Eagles 12 and 5, Cowboys 10 and 7, Commanders 5 and 12, Giants 4 and 13.
Okay. Eagles 10 and 7, Cowboys 9 and 8, Commanders 4 and 12, Giants 4 and 12.
Eagles
It'll be
12
13, by the way. It's 13.
4 and 13, sorry.
Eagles 12 and 5, Cowboys 10 and 7, Commanders 3 and 14, Giants 2 and 15.
Okay. All right. So, you want to start in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Explain.
Me explain?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's a couple factors that kind of hold me back from the same level of confidence in this team, really even outside of the obvious answer, which would be the 1-6 finish to the end of the 2023 NFL season, and then that eventual playoff loss. What Jason Kelce meant to this offense, I think, is incredibly understated here. The decision-making at the line of scrimmage that came down to him, kind of, how he took control of kind of the adjustments to that offensive line. You're looking at a new role for Cam Jurgens and that. Is he going to be able to step up to the plate? He was solid last year in pass protection, but I think as far as that role as just an offensive mind, I think there's going to be an adjustment there.
He's also had a good camp, hasn't he?
He has had a good camp. He has had a good camp. So it's encouraging. But I think when you combine that with the addition of a new offensive coordinator, and I have confidence that Kellen Moore obviously will be better than the disaster class that was the Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni experiment. I was very high on the Kellen Moore.
It'll be a little bit less of a disaster.
Yeah,
disaster.
I don't think it'll be a disaster. I think it's going to take time to adjust because we're talking about an entirely new offense is what I'm hoping for as far as, schematically how they run the football. I think as far as the we talk a lot about pre-snap motion and how that can be used with these Eagles receivers to allow them to be able to create separation in ways that aren't just, these straight up in-breaking routes that, had kind of forced the Eagles' hands over the season. How do they defend against the blitz differently than they did last season, which they struggled with for significant stretches? I think there's a lot of questions there. I expect Kellen Moore to have some answers, but I think it might take a couple of games. And so most of the Eagles' losses I have early against good defenses. And then on the other side of the ball, I worry about the pass rush. You lose Hassan Reddick and trade him for Bryce Huff. I think Huff is going to be a solid edge rusher, but I think the production of Reddick is hard to replace, exactly. I think they even were lacking it last year when he wasn't quite as efficient with his snaps as he was the year before. And Huff has never played even close to the amount of snaps that Reddick played in his entirety of his career. I mean, Reddick had one of the highest snap counts of any edge rusher in football. He had like a 90% snap rate. That just doesn't happen. It's like him and Max Crosby. So I think that's a concern. I like what they did with the secondary. I think it's very young. And so I have a lot more confidence in it than I did a year ago. I think they're going to improve, but all in all, it's just a lot of new working pieces that I think are going to take adjusting to, and I don't know if early in the season I see it working out. This is one of the most talented rosters in football. I think there's still holes within it, and I don't expect them to just automatically out of the gate look like the 10-1 team, or automatically out of the gate look like the 1-16. I expect it to be somewhere in between. That make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no comment.
I mean,
good roster. I think 10 wins is kind of egregious just because there's some games that I saw that you picked that I just think the other team has no shot at winning. I mean, it's still a very talented roster. In my opinion, it's a better roster than it was last year.
Yeah.
Just adding Saquon Barkley was would hopefully could be more of a consistent factor in the run game. It's not a knock on DeAndre Swift. He just didn't get consistent playing time due to some interesting coaching choices, which is whatever. But you kind of have a back that could be out there all 3 downs. It seems like they didn't really want DeAndre Swift out there on 3rd down.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I mean, I don't really remember him being third. I don't really remember what he was much on the Lions. So it's whatever to me. But I think Cam Jurgens is going to be a good center. Otherwise, the other one's pretty much the same.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a damn good line.
There's shifts at the right
healthy,
guard
you
position.
got a healthy Lane Johnson.
Yeah. Mekhi Becton will be playing right guard. So taking Cam Jurgens'
It's
spot.
not awful
So
if he stays healthy.
if
He's
healthy.
always been good when he's healthy. So.
Yeah, and Tyler Steen is right behind him. Tyler Steen was one of the kind of developmental pieces that they had lined up in replacement. So Becton supposedly had an incredible camp. Like, I want to be really high on him.
I mean,
he's a good
I'm high
running
on him. I mean, I was high on him as a prospect. He was good a couple years in the Jets before he got hurt. I don't mind the defense. So hopefully, I feel like the secondary has to get better than what it was last year. You obviously added Cooney and Mitchell and Cooper to G. Hopefully, it gets a little bit better. And then I think the D line's still good. It might not be as good as last year. Still good. And then the linebacker core is whatever it always is.
Yeah.
But it's just there has to be one flaw somewhere. It can't be perfect anywhere. No team in the NFL.
Yeah.
This year, I think, is perfect in every position you group. So I think it's a good team. And I feel like last year you used this logic of there used to be a lot of growing pains with the Ravens.
Yeah.
And the Ravens looked their best in the beginning of the year. So, I mean, you never know what can happen. But I don't think there's going to be many growing pains. They did go 14-3 last year. So.
Yeah.
And I also, sorry, one more thing. I also think the 1-6 collapse is just like a 1 in a million thing happening. Like, I just like it was just weird.
I think it's hard to have anything in football tied to a 1 in a million thing. I think there are legitimate systemic issues. No, well, I think there are legitimate systemic issues that showed their hands.
It's just everything that had to go wrong went wrong.
It did, but I think it went wrong because it was rotten at the core.
But like even in games when like receivers would just like Dallas Goedert just randomly dropping that pass against the Giants that ended up as a pick 6, and just little things like that just feels like. But finishing like that again, it's just an anomaly.
But if you think about it, for
but
the first 11 weeks, everything kind of goes right.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of the reverse opposite way.
Well, like outside of the MVS drop, I feel like you guys just kind of dominated.
That Buffalo game, you know what I mean? Like we're at home against Buffalo, down 3 scores. Josh Allen throws those 2 ridiculous picks.
But that's Josh Allen.
You get kind of, I mean, that Patriots game, you think about it, week 1, where, you're down the wire, Mac Jones has the ball at like the 20-yard line. Mac Jones is it.
Played the best game of his career.
Yeah, like.
That was ridiculous.
But
yeah, I get it.
The Commanders game, like.
I mean, I'm not going to sing the praises of Devin White and Zach Bond, but I think just having average to barely above average linebackers. I know Devin White was terrible. I know he was. Just
the upside.
I like what Bond's done in camp, though.
And just, I'm kind of out on Nakobe Dean at this point.
You know what? Nakobe Dean has had an incredible preseason. He has had an awesome camp. I would rather see Nakobe Dean on the field than Devin White.
That's ridiculous.
I mean,
I would let the proven veteran who has had good seasons try to prove his worth before I walk.
It's a 1-year prove it. Like I'm not.
like
freaking
over the guy who's got like 0 reps.
It just
the
looks
last 2
like the
years. And when he
athleticism
did-
was gone last year.
Yeah, and the Kobe Dean has just looked like shit every
He
time he
has.
stepped on a football
He
field.
has,
So I'd rather throw out the opportunity for a proven veteran before I throw out the
What
opportunity.
he's done in coverage throughout the preseason, and I know it's preseason football,
It's preseason football.
but
If
he's
we had
lost.
preseason football, just give Daniel Jones 6 straight MVPs. So
I don't know about last week.
I'm talking about like his rookie and second year when he looked like the second coming of Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand your concerns with the D-line. My biggest concern is Jordan Davis, definitely.
Yeah. Well, he's bad. He's been bad.
He's not good.
Yeah. But I am probably a little bit more bullish on Bryce Huff than you. Also, Nolan Smith is a question mark, for being honest. But we still have Brady Graham and Josh Sweat. Like, I'm not freaking out. It's not going to be as potent as last year because Sonny has been one of the more productive pass rushers in the past, like, half-decade-ish. And I think the improvement in secondary shouldn't be understated. Bringing back C.J. Gardner-Johnson and adding Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, who I both had as first-round caliber players.
Yeah.
Obviously, it takes a second for DBs to adjust to the NFL, but I think they're both very good. Cooper DeJean by RAS was the most athletic corner in the class. It's reasonable, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like Saquon's going to open up the offense in a way that they couldn't really do last year. I mean, DeAndre was obviously quite good, but he's not the X factor that Saquon could be.
No.
So.
And not as a pass catcher either. I
Yeah.
think that's a really understated part
Yeah.
of what Saquon's going to add. I mean, you basically have a fourth receiver.
Yeah. And, speaking of receivers,
Whoa! The Philadelphia Eagles add Jahan Dotson as of about an hour ago.
he's over the moon.
He's a Penn State guy, so there might be a little love there. But I don't claim them. But he came from an era in which I was still a Penn State fan, and as a slot guy, in comparison to the likes of Paris Campbell and Britton Covey and Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson.
He's a dog.
Johnny Wilson has been okay as far as a route runner. His hands are questionable.
His hands are bricks.
Yeah, but it just adds another dimension to this offense, and I think that was kind of one of the last remaining holes that I looked at in this roster. So good on Howie Roseman to continue to add.
Yeah, I just think, I agree with John Dotson makes as a wide receiver 3 fills a need. I don't think there's that much of a discrepancy between him and Paris Campbell. Like, he is not.
I think so.
Like, Jahan Dotson is regular good.
I think Jahan Dotson's just a more versatile
Yes,
player.
yes.
Paris Campbell's kind of a one-trick pony.
I don't know if their production would have been that different if they both got the same amount of reps.
I think so. Jahan Dotson can run a full route tree. Paris Campbell has essentially become just that slot speed guy, win a couple jump balls, but that's about it. Like, he's not, I think, at this point in his career, and especially with last year with the Giants, I just don't think he's an effective contributor. And I see Jahan Dotson, if there was an injury to an A.J. Brown or a Devontae Smith, being able to step up
More
in
than
a
Johnny
way
Wilson.
more than, yes, exactly, or Paris Campbell.
Yeah, that's fair. I think adding an actual wide receiver 3, I know Paris Campbell is like borderline, which isn't what you want to be if you want to be a competitor.
Yeah.
And then adding Saquon, I think, would just elevate the offense to a point where my defensive concerns aren't as significant as they would be.
Yeah.
So that's why I have them winning 12 games. I mean, in the playoffs, I'm not entirely confident in them, but I still think it'll be a very solid year.
Yeah, I agree. Do we want to transition to their division rivals, the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
I mean, this is generally under the assumption that CD plays the whole year.
Yeah.
But even if he does, the offense is still, to me,
I mean, the receiving core and the quarterback are great, but
Is the receiving core great outside
Michael
of
Gallup
CeeDee Lamb?
retired.
Yeah.
when you have one of the best receivers in football, yes, the receiving core's good.
I guess, man. It's just like, it feels to me like across that entire offense as far as skill position players. So we're looking at, what, 30-year-old Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah,
Being
that's
trotted
right.
out there?
That's
and
that's my biggest concern.
Yeah.
There's just gonna be no run game.
the run game's going to suck. And
Like,
then...
I mean, no one's gonna fall for those play action like West Coast plays because they're not gonna run the ball. Dak's gonna throw 50. Dak's gonna have like 5,000 yards passing this year because he's not.
But you lose Biotish
And
and
Tyron
Tyron
Smith.
Smith.
Yeah. So you got to rrely on on Tyler Guyton, who the whole point was that he's a developmental guy.
Yep.
And then
Tyler Smith.
Well, Tyler Smith's a very good guard. He's a very
I
good
like
guard.
Tyler Smith a lot.
But at the tackles, I'm very concerned.
Yeah.
And I mean, defensively, Elvie retires. You lose Stephon Gilmore, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante
You get
Fowler.
Andrew Booth.
You get Andrew Booth, who was
Will
a
not see the
fun
field.
prospect out of Clemson, and that's it.
Yeah.
Marshawn Nealon's cool. Carl Lawson's a body. Eric Kendricks
Is not a body. Don't even try.
Eric Kendricks is related to Eagles legend Michael Kendricks. But yeah, I just think the offense is going to be really just mediocre. The defense is still going to be okay. They still have Micah Parsons. They still have DeRon Bland, full season with Trayvon Diggs.
Did you get Trayvon Diggs back? You didn't have him last year.
Well, towards ACL.
Yeah.
So you didn't have him last year.
Yeah, you didn't have
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, 10-7 feels like a reasonable sort of middle ground between the offense just being completely terrible and I think losing Dan Quinn will lower the ceiling of the defense minimally, but like I don't think I including the losses and just the lack of they didn't add that much.
Yeah, I think for me defensively in that part, I think the addition of Zimmer I consider to be an upgrade over Quinn for sure. I think Zimmer has never finished with a defense that's not within the top half of the NFL in defensive DVOA. He has his own kind of signature scheme, which I think, may be a little outdated in today's NFL with the blitz packages, but we're seeing guys like Brian Flores be similarly successful in doing things like it. So I think this is the right time for him to kind of re-enter the fold. My biggest worry with running that style of defense is that you have Eric Kendricks back there as the head of it. So it's, I think it's, there needed to be investment of your resources this offseason in order to make this work. And this is kind of my greater problem with what the Dallas Cowboys have going on right now, is that the talent is there. They've built themselves through the draft, but their investment in resources in order to keep that talent flowing has been piss poor, and that all comes down to Jerry Jones. We look at next offseason and who's tied down and who's not. This has essentially become a proven year for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And yet, they have not invested the resources in order to make this a prove-it year, to make them a viable contender in this NFC in a similar capacity to what they were an off-season ago. They haven't upgraded in any way.
You haven't even told them about their biggest problem yet.
What is that?
Their sorry-ass excuse of a head coach.
I don't believe that.
Oh, I totally believe
I do not believe
Mike
that.
McCarthy past December is just completely incompetent.
I don't believe that. I believe
it. We've seen it now 10 years in a row.
I believe come playoff time, the decision-making of Mike McCarthy is absolutely a significant detriment to the Dallas Cowboys.
I just think in big games
But-
that's a significant
but
detriment.
think about-
Like, every time they walk into Philadelphia, they get whopped.
That's not true.
Almost every time.
They
walk
whopped
in.
us like 2 months ago.
No, they won in. No, you guys won in Philly.
But they won in Dallas. Like,
That's fine. You can win a game at home. I'm saying every time you go on the road to Philly, which is your hardest game of the year, you get whopped.
I guess.
Every time you go on the road to face a big NFC team, the 49ers, they probably get whopped.
Yeah.
And any big game they play, they don't like the fact that the only years that they've won the division is when every other team sucks, so the Eagles have one, as I said earlier, 1 in like 100 possibility downfall of a year. And then you go into the playoffs and like have they won a playoff game in the last like 5 years?
They beat
they won a wild card game with Des Bryant, and then they beat like the Seahawks a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Like and like Gino had one of the worst games of the season.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, like there has to be like some correlation. I was in shock that he didn't get fired during the post game interview after the Packers game.
Here's my thing, right? The last year, what happened with the Dallas Cowboys offense, in which they were able to kind of take this West Coast style offense, which they wanted to add to kind of reduce the risk of the Dak Prescott interceptions that occurred the year before, and combine it with that spread offense, which was so successful the year before that, under McCarthy with this Cowboys offense. They really, I think, under McCarthy, should be given credit for creating this formula in order to be a highly successful regular season offense.
No, it's genius.
Now,
that is genius. There's no no, and like, but here's the thing. Like, this is what we say about a lot of coaches. Like, there's no doubt that you're a genius and you can make a great offensive coordinator because of the scheme that you run and the football mind that you have. When you cannot call plays and when you can't make smart decisions in big moments, and it's caused the downfall of what has been a lot of great seasons for the Cowboys in the last 5-6 years. Now we have a problem.
I agree.
And this is where I'm going to say it, like, Mike McCarthy was really never an upgrade over Jason Garrett.
No, God, because the thing with Jason Garrett, right, is Jason Garrett provides nothing. Jason Garrett is like what we would talk about with Nick Sirianni. Like, he's a body. He is essentially a body. What McCarthy brought schematically has to be important. Now, his decisions as a decision maker within that are horrendous. And that's where you need to bring in an offensive coordinator who understands the scheme and is able to be litigated those duties as a play caller. McCarthy is unwilling to do that.
Yes.
That is the issue.
And he needs to go.
If that is if it is my way or the highway, then he needs to go. But I truly believe that it is Jerry Jones who continues to push at McCarthy that he should have that role. Because why wouldn't I? He's botched everything else. He's botched this Prescott extension. He's botched this Micah Parsons extension. Is CeeDee Lamb going to even play? Like, he has himself as the owner led to the destruction of this roster. And even as an Eagles fan, it's kind of sad to see.
No, I'm fine with it.
I still think with a different head coach, you might have a little.
Yes, 100%.
Like, I think as a head coach, you might have made an NFC Championship 2 years ago.
Because with the decisions in a playoff game.
Like the goddamn Dak Prescott quarterback draw. Who in their right mind? My sister was even like, huh? She walked out for 5 minutes and just happened to see it. Was confused.
Yeah, I think if Kellen Moore was still in that building, the Dallas Cowboys would have made the NFC Championship last year.
Yeah.
I think if Kellen Moore was in the building, I think if Kellen Moore was able to be the play caller.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I was.
That year, I think they put up a fight with you guys in the NFC Championship 2 years ago.
I don't know about that. That team was pretty good.
So the Cowboys were really damn good that year too. That's still with.
I don't know about that. I think they would have been better than San Francisco.
They would have killed San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I think it's obvious.
Yeah, it's
that in my opinion that is the biggest.
Yeah,
that's the biggest issue.
It's mismanagement of resources, and it all comes from the top. And there's not really a solution. And the sad part is, not sad.
I don't care.
I know. But I see this season ending already. I see how this is going to end. It's going to end with McCarthy jobless.
Yeah, the wither out in the playoffs.
Going to end with Prescott, Micah, and CD still having the same questions. And yes, one of the three leaving. And if you are Jerry Jones, I don't see where that, in your mind, whatever of it is left, ended up the best decision. So move on to Washington.
Speaking of Dan Quinn.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep.
They just added a lot, but that's it. They've objectively added a lot.
Yeah.
But it's just weird.
It's just a lot of veterans because they have money to spend. They talked about it on the way here, what's the point of getting Austin Eckler other than the fact that he's established? and maybe could be a mentor to Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner.
Same thing to the
Yeah.
linebackers.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
I mean,
Eagles
it's a
legend.
team-
We got multiple Eagles legends. Olamide Zacchaeus, Zach Ertz, and Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. I mean, is it a team that not good, could win 7 or 8 games if things
if
went
everything
right?
goes right, yeah.
If things went right and
If Jaden Daniels
stays healthy,
is physically intact by week.
however, I don't think any of that's going to happen. So that's
Yeah.
why I have them winning 3
Yeah.
games, and I think it's just it's a bad offense.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin needs to get the hell on out of there. I don't know how this hasn't happened sooner. I don't know why he signed an extension.
Yeah. I just think I've never been a Cliff Kingsbury fan. And for him to bring I've never been. No. I was more of a Cliff Kingsbury fan than you. No. That pro style offense that he's bringing to Washington, that college offense, I was telling him in the car, it just looks so similar to what I had to suffer through with the Eagles last season. It's so static. There's no motion, there's no movement, there's nothing to attempt to trick a defense. And that's fine at times if you have the resources to be able to, make that happen. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, of course the Eagles were going to win a couple games running that offense because they have the talent to make that happen.
But
It's Terry McLaurin and
Luke McCaffrey.
Zach Ertz.
Ben Simmons.
Yeah,
Ben Simmons would be okay.
there's no real answer there. So, and then on top of that, you bring in the Daniels injury risk factor, and I don't know if this is just a preseason thing and this is going to change.
He's done this.
They're running him into the ground. They're running
they're not. He's willing.
Yes,
he's willingly putting himself in danger.
Well, not even that. Every
also
play
the
is an
linebacker.
RPO.
Yeah.
So he's making the decision to do these quarterback runs, but they're calling every play and giving him that decision. And so, by week 5, I think there's a stretch in the season. I was laughing, and I was showing my girlfriend. They play the Cowboys, the Browns, and the Ravens. He's not making that alive.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, I have questions there. The secondary is also an issue. I like that they drafted Mike Sarin still. He was one of my most underrated players in the draft. I think he could really make a difference at nickel corner despite, his obvious size issues, just because of, how smart he is and how great instincts he has. They also add Bobby Wagner. I know he's not Bobby Wagner, but I think there's still a little bit of juice left.
There's a little bit of juice left, but also I think as Ethan said, the biggest deal is they brought in a lot of these old guys as mentors.
Yeah.
I think it's smart.
Absolutely.
Having a bunch of young linebackers learn under Bobby Wagner, kind of a good idea. Having Brian Robinson learn under Austin Eckler, that'd be a good idea.
Why not?
Yeah, and there's a lot of good young pieces on that defensive line. I can't say the same about the offensive line.
Yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing. But on that defensive line, I think they'll continue to grow. So, you said, I can see the argument where this team wins 7 or 8 games.
But that's assuming Jaden Daniels has a legitimately very good
season.
very
And if some wacky shit happens in the NFC, maybe that is something close to competing for a wild card. But I think it's gonna take a little bit, and
there's a fun future though.
Yeah,
especially if the Jaden Daniels turns into what people think it's gonna be. Then it's gonna be fun.
I worry about the investment of resources here as well, though, because from what I understand, the Commanders' ownership believes in this as a retool, not a rebuild. Yeah. And so if that is the direction that this team attempts to go, and it's going to continue to be this veteran-focused thing, where it's less focused on the draft and development of talent, I do worry a little bit about what the future of this team is going to look like. So I will say that, but with the talent they have now, I can definitely see it being successful.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like there were expectations for them at all.
Exactly.
So
there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be.
So, 5-12 is completely rational.
Yeah.
Swapping Cam Crow for Jeremy Shinn, I think it's a net negative in my opinion. It's not as big of a drop off as a Devin White, but Jeremy Chin definitely isn't the guy who we were incredibly salty about not getting a couple years ago.
Yeah. Well, and the issue is the real cool thing about Jeremy Chin that made Jeremy Chin special is, he kind of was the Kyle Hamilton before the Kyle Hamiltons, where you have that kind of Swiss Army knife they are able to use all across the field, whether as a linebacker or as a safety. He is in a Dan Quinn defense, which is historic for being, as static and easy to pick apart as any defense. So I just, I thought it was a weird signing just because of that. I don't see him as a traditional safety, and I feel like that's where they want him to be, which is not good.
Giants will be bad. We know this.
Yeah.
Giants are awful.
Yeah.
They are definitely in the running for number one pick.
Yeah.
They are in the Shader Sanders. Oh, I asked. No.
Carson Beck.
They're in the Shader Sanders,
Whoa.
Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Connor Wagman / other good college quarterback sweepstakes for the number one pick.
Yeah.
I think it'll be Shader, but
I thought it was
he's
very
better than everyone I just named. But
he might be.
yes.
I thought it was very funny that they did the Hard Knocks thing this offseason.
Because it just shows how unbelievably incompetent they are in this franchise.
It was pretty damning, I will say that. And for them to lose the amount of young talent that they did, I mean, I understand the Saquon thing from both
From
perspectives.
organizationally, like there's no reason for a bad team to overpay for a guy who they've not seen as much of it. Like
But the Xavier McKinney thing was
it's huge.
horrible.
Massive.
He was such a key piece, and it sounded like they just kind of said, "Go find a deal somewhere else." So that was pretty bad. I love the addition of Brian Burns. I love the draft pick of Malik Neighbors. I think those are both key cornerstones, but they once again failed to address the offensive line. I truly believe they signed John Runyon and Jermaine Illuminor, but I just didn't think that was smart out. These are like 28-year-old veterans. You're attempting to kind of bring a rebuild about. And this is not a team that's a win now, seven games kind of team. I would attempt to find more projects and attempt to develop them. So I think the line is still going to be, really, really, really bad. Maybe not as atrocious as it was. I mean, last year it was one of the historic worst offensive lines in the history of football.
Yeah, I mean, like Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal have both had good moments, but I mean, it's really just about finding consistency.
Andrew Thomas is the only
Andrew
guy
Thomas
I
is
have
good.
a liquor of confidence in.
But like Evan Neal, I feel like
his
first
disaster.
year was good, and I feel like last year he was just terrible. And I'd really like to see just a consistency.
Just move him
Because
inside.
move him inside. He's a monster of a man. Like he'd be a good guard.
Yeah.
Probably put him next to Andrew Thomas.
Yeah.
Right?
To take the pressure off of him.
Yeah, I mean that's I can't name the player on the O-line. It's awful. I can't name any.
John Michael Schmitz.
Like I'm just saying, I'm gonna name
good,
all the
but
players.
injury prone.
Like the Giants' key players this year.
Malik
Those
Neighbors.
two offensive linemen I just named. Malik Neighbors.
Devin Singletary.
Texans legend.
Brian Burns.
Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau,
Dexter,
who also
and
Dexter Lawrence, of course. And like Kayvon Thibodeau is also like
borderline
inconsistent.
He's not good.
You're tied to what might end up being right next to Deshaun Watson is one of the worst quarterback contracts ever given out. You have no O-line for him. You have no weapons for him. Your only wide receiver on that roster besides Darius Slayton that I can name is Malik Neighbors, and he's never played an NFL snap. He should be good, but you never know. He could suck. I mean, he probably will only have 700 yards this year because Daniel Jones is barely going to throw for 3,000.
It's difficult.
You literally made Darren Waller retire.
Yeah, you made him make a sad video on the beach. That was Kelsey Thomas.
It's kind of what we talk about. Well, we spent 20 minutes flaming the Dolphins the other night about the Tua stuff and blah, blah, blah. And it's become, I think, a problem in today's modern NFL when you have a head coach who takes one of these quarterbacks and just has such a great system that they're able to build around them and fit around them that they start to believe that their talent is essential to that system. We get these massive contracts, and then it ends up looking like this. And so I think it's starting to come about in the NFL. think we're going to see more and more and more of it, and it's a scary theme because that's even, I think, coming down to the draft as well. I think the J.J. McCarthy pick represents it, we could say. The Bo Nix pick kind of represents it, continuing. So, these are guys who are drafted for specific talents within an offense.
Bo Nix
and
is
not
kind of
for their greater... Bo Nix is a very accurate short throw passer. And
that's like Noodle on Drew Brees.
it has
He's looked decent.
some
He's had a good
levels
camp,
of
and he's looked
athleticism.
good in preseason
And
games.
yeah, he's very good at the very niche things that he does.
And if Sean
if
Payton's
Sean
out the
Payton
door,
builds an offense around him,
yeah.
it could be fine.
But also, if he's gone, it's going to be a disaster.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
I'm shocked they announced Bo Nix was starting.
I'm not.
I'm not.
I mean,
He's been playing good.
I knew at some point, but I didn't think that they were drafting him to start with.
I'm not. Peyton seemed in love with him all camp. I think the Stidham thing was just because he had a handle of an offense, and I think credit to Bo Nix, that's been one of the things that he's been so good at over the course of his career is his overall IQ as far as football, because he's 100 years old.
Yeah.
So
you'd hope at this point.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, that makes sense, but it's just the continuing of that trend, and I think the Daniel Jones contract might finally be what starts to kind of buck that trend.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes,
Yeah.
but I think there's definitely a chance of that.
Yeah. I mean, I should have mentioned Theo Johnson and Tyler Newman because the team's going to be bad. They're going to have a lot of opportunities. Theo Johnson, super athletic tight end out of Penn State.
Yeah.
He'll probably get the tight end one job.
He will. They were in love with him.
But his competition is Daniel Bellinger.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's difficult, but I think he'll still be good.
Yeah.
And Tyler Newman was debatably the best safety in the draft.
Yeah.
And he goes to a team that has a massive hole at safety. He's obviously not going to match Xavier McKinney's production, but I think he'll still be good. And Devin Singletary, as much as we like to clown on him,
Motor.
I don't know why you clown on him.
yeah, he was good with the Texans last
He was
year.
good.
Damn it, yeah. After we finally stopped giving Damian Pierce the ball, I don't think he's gonna make the team.
Yeah.
I don't think Damian Pierce is making the roster.
They shouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, Devin Singletary is just a transitional back, in between them drafting whoever next year.
Or they're just gonna do the running back by committee thing. And
Yeah.
just not care.
And if you want to do that, fine. If you're the Giants and you suck,
Who cares?
I don't see why you go out to get a Brian Burns. Doesn't really make sense.
No.
But I mean, if you can get him,
I don't know why Brian Burns declined me. Was don't trade me to this team, and this team, and then was fine with getting traded to the Giants.
Yeah.
That's hilarious to me. So
I agree.
I think we spent enough time on this division. We spent 50 minutes on this division.
Did we really? Oh my god. Okay. It's probably time to move on to the NFC North. Let's get it.
all right, Lions 12-5, Packers 11-6, Bears 11-6, Vikings 5-12.
Yep. I have Packers 12-5, winning the division. I have Lions 12-5. I have Bears 9-8. I have Vikings 7-10.
I have the Packers at 12-5, Lions at 12-5, Bears at 10-7, just missing the playoffs, and Vikings at 6-11.
Want to start in Green Bay or start in Detroit?
We'll start Green Bay's the more fun one.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're fun. I'm not 100% sold on Jordan Love, so I would like to see him more than 8. I'd like to see him more than 9 games. But if we're 2 weeks in, he looks good, I'm sold. That's the first time I'll admit I missed on a bad quarterback in the draft. They're fun. They got a good defense. Their receiver core is fun. Christian Watson's obviously awesome. Jaden Reed, Michigan State legend. They got Josh Jacobs, who finally gets to sit behind a good O-line. I'm excited for it. They're going to be fun. Obviously Matt LaFleur is a genius, and he's been one of the best coaches in football ever since he got hired in 2020?
Yeah.
2019?
Yeah.
He was right after McCarthy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt LaFleur's a genius. They have good coordinators out there. Good O-line, good defensive line. Obviously, you have Jair Alexander, who's somehow still on the team. I thought for sure he was going to get cut or trade or whatever, but he's back. I feel like everywhere there's all around a solid roster. They're going to be fun to watch, and Jordan Love is going to be probably making a case for MVP if he keeps up what he did in the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Last few weeks of the season, sorry.
Yeah. I'm in love with this team. I really am. They took a season in which we all kind of saw the potential there, but they were kind of dragged back by that defense. And then in the playoffs, did the complete unexpected. And so now, under new leadership defensively, I think with probably a more base, simplistic scheme, I think this defense is going to flourish. They have all the pieces to do so. And so, if they're able to go from what they were, which is a bottom 6-7 unit in the entire league by DVOA, to an average, above average defense, I have them. I think they're like 11th and 12th in the entirety of the league when I did my defense rankings. I think they could be really special. They have a lot of pieces there, and then adding McKinney, as we talked about, just massive for that secondary. I like a lot of what they did offensively as well. I think adding Jacobs, swapping him out for Aaron Jones, it
was a pretty significant.
It's an upgrade. It's an upgrade. And just adds your potential and the threat of being able to slash downhill for a Matt LaFleur offense to be able to do that. It creates so much ability, similar to what we were talking about with Dallas for that spread
I was
offense.
going to say with Saquon and DeAndre Swift, he kind of opens the offense a lot more than Aaron Jones.
Yeah. I do think Jones is a better pass catcher.
Yeah.
So there is that, but I mean,
AJ Dillon's
you still have AJ Dillon,
it's
which is
right
a sick one too.
Yep. And then this receiver core is only going to grow.
Yeah. They're only getting better. It's very young, but they've all proven that they're very solid NFL players.
They're all very solid. So I see where you can have some questions on the line.
Jordan Morgan, question mark.
Yeah, Jordan Morgan is a question mark. I think he was the most one of the more NFL ready of all of the tackles in this draft.
But one of the lower ceilings.
One of the lower ceilings, I agree. So, but I mean, it's an upgrade over not having Bakhtiari out there for 10 weeks of the season.
Zach Tom has proven himself to be a solid tackle.
He has, absolutely. So, and I also worry about the linebacker core a little bit. Clay Walker hasn't really become what we wanted him to be.
You lose Devondre Campbell, who's sort of been the anchor of that unit.
Yeah. So but I still have faith. I think the pass rush, was one of, I think, the lowest pressure rates above expected of any team in the NFL. So I expect that to continue to rise up.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really talented team, and I think the sky's the limit, honestly.
I mean, I'm not. This is kind of forced, but if Lucas Van Ness has another year under his belt, he could be a very solid opposite edge rusher to Rashawn Gary. And Kenny Clark down the middle is still elite.
Yeah.
Big man.
And Rashawn Gary's elite, so I think that would just be like a cherry on top. Like, I'm not expecting him to have some Herculean jump in production, but having a power guy alongside them, I think, would definitely help.
Yeah.
So Detroit, they've just added, it's still a very good team.
Yep.
I think addressing the secondary with Carlson Davis and Terry Arnold was huge. That was like the one thing that held me back with him last year, because there wasn't that much to really be confident about with that. I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, obviously, Eagles legend again.
Yep.
But you lose Jonah Jackson and replace him with Kevin Zeitler, which I don't think is that big of a difference.
I think it is, just because I think Zeitler kind of showed his age on the latter half of that Ravens postseason run. So
but fortunately for them, they have maybe one of the top 3 tackles in the game.
Yep.
Top 3 center.
Yep.
And at least a top 15-ish tackle with Taylor Decker. So.
I go back and forth on Ragnar, but
and you add Marcus Davenport just for depth. DJ Reader, I don't think is as flashy as I would have said a couple months ago, because he was such a beast in Cincinnati. I just don't really know how that's going to work. But Terry and Arnold, I am extremely, extremely high on. He was CB1 for me. And I think just solidifying the secondary pretty much completes the entire team.
Yeah.
So, and you have another year under the belt for Junior Gibbs and Sam Laporta and Jack Campbell.
Is David Montgomery still there?
Yeah.
I would like as much as
It's a good
it
one.
works, but I would like to see them get rid of Montgomery. Just
I mean,
Junior
yeah,
Gibbs
he's
situation.
kind of excess goods, but that pairing is still
Yeah.
very, very good.
That was probably
they're
the
great.
best back pairing, and yeah. I think I really love what they did in the secondary. I agree, but I think it's underrated the amount of pressure which is going to fall upon Arnold in just his rookie season.
Yeah.
The Lions love to play press coverage. It is like their biggest kind of strength is their defense. Is they're saying, hey, we're gonna play press man, and just this D line has to get home, and we're gonna trust our corners to hold you down in that way. So I think putting all that on a rookie is a lot, especially with what we've seen in rookie corners over the past, decade of NFL football and their overall success rate. I liked Arnold a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't like him significantly more than a lot of guys who have failed at this same kind of mission coming initially into the league. So I think there's a lot of pressure there. But adding Carlton Davis is awesome.
Yeah.
Like
That'll
That was
take some of the
Yep,
pressure off
yep.
of Paramount.
yeah, I was thinking
he's
who
fun
could the
too.
Lions acquire that would be a fun play.
That's the guy.
That's the guy. So it's a really great move. Love that. I agree with what you were saying about Reader. I think when on the field, he's one of
the best.
the best. But you gotta, at 32 years old with that injury, that's a real killer.
It's bad.
So I'm a little worried about that. It's just a really talented, really deep roster. I think, come regular season, they'll be just as good as they were last year.
Yeah,
It's all going to come down to when it all falls down in playoff time, is this defense going to be able to get a stop?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest deal. We've seen Jared Goff on the bigger stages now able to lead this offense offensively. I have less questions
Lead the
about
offense
that.
offensively.
Lead the offense offensively, yes. I have less questions about that than I had going in.
Yeah.
I think it's really going to come down to, can this defense be above average when it really matters in January?
Yeah.
And I'm not totally sure, but I think this is one of their better shots at it.
Yeah. All right, the Bears.
I have nothing to add.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I said. Okay. The Bears are going to be sick. Probably. I don't think probably. It is probably the best situation for a rookie quarterback in the past,
Ever.
Ever, because you have three guys who could be considered number ones, and you add DeAndre Swift.
And the O-line got a little bit better,
Yeah.
and the defense got better.
Yeah.
How did they only have this team winning 10 games?
So I still.
I mean, I understand there's going to be
Growing,
like some growing pains, but I
Yeah.
think Caleb Williams has just been that transformative of a prospect that I think him alongside DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Roe Odunze.
with DeAndre Swift.
I cannot. It just does not compute in my head to see if that goes wrong.
Yeah.
So, I'm bullish on them for that reason.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
there's a world where I can see them winning more than 10 games,
Yeah.
like dominating.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I was just trying to be realistic with my record. Like, it is a rookie quarterback. Like, we saw even growing pains last year with CJ Stroud. Like, he really wasn't good until the third or fourth game.
And we were down on the Texans.
We were.
Because we thought it was a rebuilding year. Because
We
we're
did.
like, Nico Collins, St. Del,
Yep.
okay.
We had the infamous Bryce Young has more weapons than CJ Stroud. I don't mind now.
Adam Thielen was good last year.
I forgive you.
Yeah, thank you.
But,
Some of us knew what was going on with Nico Collins
yeah.
and Tank Dell, who you hated.
I did.
Yeah. You were doing like backflips when they traded a lot of fourths for him in the draft. I'm like, okay, Nico Collins. He's okay.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
he's legit.
Yep.
So.
I
We
think
were
with-
doing backflips too. We were on FaceTime. Like,
No, that was Brevin Jordan.
No, it was Nico Collins too. You were hyped about Nico Collins. You were like, oh, you'll like that, because I was on delay.
I think with Chicago, there's a couple things for me. One, reports out of camp, Keenan Allen got fat.
Yeah. There's a lot of deep dish.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
I don't really care though, because DJ Moore and Bro.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think Keenan Allen just like if he's good.
Yeah, it's bonus.
Great.
Points.
But if he's not good, I'm not freaking
Yeah,
out.
I think coaching as well.
Yeah, I think Matty Eberflus is bad.
Yeah,
like straight up bad.
Defensively, there's some questions there over his scheme and what he has been going on there.
But a lot of the pieces are good.
A lot of the pieces are really good. There's some holes on the interior, but I love that secondary. I think that secondary with Jalen Johnson and then Tyreek Stevenson on the other side, one of the most underrated cores in football. Yes, the linebacker core also, I'd say, a top 5 unit in the NFL. Like, they are really loaded on that defense. I think that could be a top 10 defense for sure. And then offensively, I really like Shane Waldron. I think, he was stuck in a Seattle Seahawks situation in which, he kind of was shafted by the injuries to the offensive line.
Yeah.
And it kind of didn't really allow him to open up the playbook in the way that he wanted to. But I think he's going to be an upgrade over what Luke Getsy offered this team just a year ago, which was practically nothing. That's why another Raiders thing. But, I think this team is going to be really solid, a playoff contender right on the verge, and it's just going to come down to what Caleb Williams can offer them in year one. I'm on the higher end of that. I have them winning 9 games and sneaking in.
Yeah. I just had one other team sneak in with 10 games still.
Yeah. I have him as a 6. You probably have him as a 7.
I can't see him on here. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Vikings, just Sam Darnold.
Well, I think Sam Darnold will be better than what we saw.
Yeah,
with the Jets.
yeah, with the Jets.
He will be anywhere from
It won't be like
slightly below average
yeah.
to an average quarterback this year, and it's going to be nice to see it turn around because he's kind of a guy that I've just always kind of felt bad for.
Yeah,
cool dude.
When I saw him slaughter Penn State in the Rose Bowl, I'm like, I love this guy.
Yep.
However, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is cool. I actually, to be honest, I don't have many. The O-line isn't wonderful.
Just
I don't
the
think.
defense
It's fine.
is kind of
It's fine. It's going to be middle of the pack. I like the offense. I think they're going to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
You obviously have Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
If Jordan Addison isn't in prison, he'll be good. You got T.J. Hawkinson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold.
Christian Darrisaw, dog.
Yeah, Sam Darnold's going to be decent. Josh Jacobs. No, not Josh Jacobs. Sorry, Aaron Jones in the backfield's going to be good. That defense just sucks outside of
They've
added so much in comparison to last year, and they were still a top half of the NFL unit by DVOA last year.
Yeah, and then you lost the top 5 edge rusher in football.
And you replaced him with Grader.
I love Jonathan Grenard to death, but he's not a top 5 right.
And he's not a top 5 edge rusher, but he's young enough in which I think he could develop into such over time.
But that's
You're
how this
continuing to get younger. You're continuing to get younger in a build. And I think having him and Dallas Turner on either side is still.
But that's fine, but that doesn't help you now.
I think that's still.
Which is why I think they're going to win 6-7 games.
6-7 games is fine.
Although I think it gets worse in the future.
My biggest
I still
worry,
don't think JJ McCarthy's good.
Yeah.
What's the injury? It's a hamstring?
It's
a leg injury, right? Yeah. So when part of the upside was he's mobile, he can scramble, he's an improviser, and you tear your meniscus before you play a snap.
I agree. It's
just adding on to the misery that's going to be that
maybe
thing.
My biggest worry is the secondary.
Yeah, it's part of
It's awful.
They add Gilmore, but
I'm not
it's
moved.
I liked what he did last year, but I think
he was
a lot
good
of
last
that
year, but he's
was what was on either sides of him. I think having him as your number 1 corner is not an ideal situation. They're gonna need to address that. The tragic death of Kyrie Jackson, I think, is just he was really gonna play an actual role for them. So just tragic there. But hopefully they're able to develop in that way. It might take a year, and Brian Flores continuing to attempt to really just scheme around it. We saw the Raiders be able to do it last year, where they kind of just took a bunch of bodies in those positions and
somehow
with the different ways they were able to get guys as free rushers. Patrick Graham, I think Flores has been doing the same thing for a while. I expect him to really, hone in on his craft once again. So I like this Vikings defense. I like pieces of this Vikings offense. I think it's enough that, if you told me they beat the Lions in December and they won 8 or 9 games, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. If Sam Darnold's like a Jimmy G sort of guy,
exactly.
then sure.
Yeah, I think.
And that's also under the assumption that Jettis produces like Tyreek Hill last year, which
and
is
stays healthy.
entirely possible.
Yeah.
But the injury thing still is a concern.
It is. It definitely is. But
because without him, the offense kind of falters because it is so keyed in on him being the guy.
Yeah, but it is his first career injury. I mean, he looked the same at the end of the regular season. I expect him to be.
He still ended up with maybe top 15 yards.
Yeah.
Missing 7
Yes, he did.
games.
He had over 1,000 yards, which is just sick.
Yeah, without Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. So
Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins.
Yeah. I expect him to be just as good this season. I think they're a 7-win team. I think they're solid.
Yeah. I guess I'm just the 5. I think the 5 is just because I think the division is just too stacked.
It is. It really is.
I have them going 2-4 in the division.
Yeah.
Just because with Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago in their way, they don't match up with any of them
as well. Yeah. I completely agree. It's going to be difficult, but at the same time, I mean, this is a team that, with this experienced coaching staff, has contended in the division with less for years upon years upon years. So it wouldn't shock me if they were in a situation where they were able to get back there, but it might look rough to start. So, NFC South, let's go.
Okay, Falcons 10-7, Bucks 7-10, Saints 6-11, Panthers 4-13.
All right, Falcons. Hold on, I have to pull mine up. Where is it? Falcons 10-7, Bucks 8-9, Saints 7-10, Panthers 3-14.
Falcons 11-6, Buccaneers 10-7, Saints 6-11, Panthers 3-14.
Starting Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Desmond Ridder, terrible. There's been a lot of teams where I feel like for a few years now, and this is not as bad as the Jets was last year, but kind of with the same lines as the Jets. If they had a good quarterback, this team would have made the playoffs. However, I also think if they had competent coaching, they would have made the playoffs too, even with Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
Arthur Smith's an idiot.
Yeah.
Terrible. He's a bad head coach. I actually I don't mind him as an offensive mind. I didn't mind the plays they ran. I didn't like the packages and the subs they had in. Why are you and I understand Kyle Pitts might not have been what you expected when you drafted the 4th overall. When you drafted the 4th overall, highest tight end ever. I'm still not giving him. I'm still not using him as a disguise for Jonnu Smith. Why am I drawing up plays for Russell Gage and not Drake London? Why am I not and Tyler Algier is a good power back. Why am I giving him more reps than I'm giving Bijan Robinson?
Yeah.
Why am I having Bijan Robinson active in a game and not even playing him? I understand he was sick, but tell him he's out. That's more like a fantasy frustration. But Arthur Smith was an idiot. Raheem Morris, I love.
Yes.
Raheem Morris is going to be a great head coach. He's been a good coordinator. I forget where he was as a. No. Before that, he was a coordinator and then came in as an interim coach somewhere.
Broncos.
He wasn't an interim coach with the Broncos. It might have been with the Falcons.
It was the Falcons. Yeah, it was the Falcons.
When they fired Dan Quinn in the middle of the season, and Raheem Morris came in and went from they were really bad and somehow salvaged it.
Yeah,
and they were a middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
He's gonna be great. I think Kirk Cousins, despite tearing his ACL last year, I think Kirk Cousins before he tore his ACL had the best year of his career. If you can get part of that back, just some competent quarterback play, smart veteran quarterback play, is huge. I think you're going to see a lot more Bijan Robinson this year, a lot more Drake London. I think you're going to see a lot more Kyle Pitts. I think we've accepted now is not the guy you drafted 4th overall. He's not that dominant playmaker. he's still going to be a good NFL tight end, or maybe he's not as good as a blocker. He's still a good route runner. He's still got good hands. He's going to put up 700, 800 yards and be a key contributor to a playoff team. I love the defense. It's kind of the same as last year. They're solid. You loved the defense last year. They didn't change much. AJ Terrell. Today they extended AJ Terrell.
Yeah.
Jesse Bates was fun. He's a decent D line. I have a couple questions with the linebackers.
I think the linebackers in the pass rush.
They added Matthew Judon.
They did just add Matthew Judon. I still don't think the pass rush might be around average.
Temple legend Arnold Ebiketie.
Yeah, there's that.
Calais Campbell.
Calais Campbell's not a team. Calais Campbell's not a Falcon.
Yeah.
He's a Dolphin.
He's a Dolphin. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Grady Jarrett's been consistently solid when he's been in the NFL. I agree there's not really another good edge rusher, but I still think that Matthew Judon will still wreak havoc on the other side, as he's been doing on the Patriots for so many years now at this point. The linebackers are bad. I like the secondary.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons was.
Justin, I didn't even think about the fact that they signed Justin. They have great safeties.
Yeah,
AJ Terrell,
best safety duo in the league.
AJ Terrell has been one of the best corners.
Yeah.
Not the best, like one of the best. But it's been like a very good NFL corner now for the past few years after a terrible first season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what's going on the other side. I'm actually not 100% sure who else is playing corner for them right now. I know they traded Kuda because they had him last year. But I still think it's decent enough, and you have good safety help back there where even if you haven't like a misstep with a corner, like you have Justin Simmons back there to pick up coverage or whatever. Outside of the linebackers, the O-line, I'm not really sure about. I know Jay Matthews is still there. I think it's a solid O-line. Anywhere from average to solid, depending on the day. Yeah. I'm really high on them. I think they play an easier schedule just because they got third in the division last year, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of were given an easy hand.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll win a playoff game. I don't have them winning a playoff game, but it's just like finally we're making progress in Atlanta. I mean, I really think that Arthur Smith hire and the Desmond Ridder experiments set them back a couple of years. But I think now we're looking for a bright future. I think this is a team that could develop in maybe 2 or 3 years down the road into a contender. Even though who the hell knows what's going on at quarterback?
Yeah. Well,
obviously, right now we know it's Kirk Cousins, but next year, the year after, what the hell are we doing about it?
Yeah. As much as Michael and I loved him coming out, the Michael Penix pick is objectively terrible.
And it's not.
Imagine if this team had Dallas Turner, we would be singing.
Yes.
I would give him 11 wins, maybe 12.
I probably would have given him 12. And it's not a bad pick because it's Michael Penix. It's a bad pick because you just signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal.
I think it can be both, but
I don't have a
we
problem
can
with
leave
Michael
that
Penix.
for
And I gave Michael Penix a first-round grade.
Yeah.
I just think it was a bad spot for him.
we can leave the Michael Penix for another day. I think
because he's the non-factor.
Yeah, I think logistically, right, this was one of the worst pass rushes in football last year, no matter how you look at it. I love the Judon trade. It really changes my outlook on this team. But I think the bigger thing for me was having Simmons and Bates back there, like you said. It's been so key for Raheem Morris. You saw it with his usage of John Johnson a couple years ago, where he kind of prioritized him. We saw it last year with this secondary with the Rams, in which he kind of used those safeties as kind of the key pieces in that turnaround of the Rams defense. That defense was, had no business being as good as it was.
Absolutely.
By any means.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to be significantly worse this year without him.
They just doesn't seem to be worse.
Yeah, maybe. So I have the utmost faith that they will be a better defense under Raheem Morris. Offensively, I still have some questions about the skill position players around there.
Yeah.
And I've been the Falcons guy. You guys know this. I've sold my soul for Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and whatever else. But at the end of the day, man, I haven't seen it on a football field yet. And so, any of them as a one.
I feel like we've seen
flashes, especially from London.
Yeah,
but
I think Drake London we've seen a lot more of. Kyle Pitts, we know the skill is there when we've seen it allowed to be unleashed.
Maybe
hasn't been. I don't think
we've seen
we've seen skill. We haven't seen, as I've said 100 times already, we haven't seen the number 4 overall pick, but we've seen the 30th pick who's gone out and been a solid NFL tight end.
Maybe.
So that's what we have.
Maybe. The question is going to continue, and then this I don't think we processed, because it was kind of taken for granted with all the really surprising free agency deals that occurred. I don't think we processed how historic the Kirk Cousins deal by itself is. This is $200 million for a 35-year-old guy just coming off of torn Achilles.
Yeah.
This has never happened in NFL history. So we can leave the Michael Penix drama aside. We can leave whatever pick. This is going to be possibly league changing as far as medically how we look at quarterbacks, financially how we look at quarterbacks. This contract can make or break everything. So I'm really interested to see how Cousins plays. I'm leaving it at 10 wins because, I'm kind of like, we'll see. But I am incredibly intrigued by this Falcons team this year. I think this could be, an NFL team that means a lot for the history of this league and the future of this league.
Yeah. If Kirk Cousins is like 75% of what it was last year, then they'll win like 11 games.
Yes, and if Kirk Cousins is 75% of what he was last year, this leads to Kirk Cousins-esque contracts for guys like, this Peyton Manning situation would have never happened in 2012 if we're doing this on a consistent basis. So I think it just shows how the quarterback market has changed if he's able to be successful in that.
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking at that. Yeah.
Should we move on to the Bucs?
We can move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'll start. I love the offense. I've been a Baker Mayfield guy since college, and these guys know that. He's also. I went on a tangent when we did the AFC North video. AFC North, about how the Browns were biggest idiots of all time for letting him go, and I'll believe that forever. The fact that he had the season he did last year, and he wasn't amazing. He wasn't like MVP caliber guy, but he was just a damn good quarterback last year, and it was just so fun. Because he deserves it. He works hard, and they were good, and the Bucs made the play, and it was like, how are the Bucs going to be post Tom Brady? And they were good. And I like Rachaad White. I think he's just going to keep getting better. I feel like there were some struggles at some points last year, but he'll get better as most young players do, especially with a good, coaching staff around him or whatever, except for Tom Bowles. They would be a lot better if they didn't have Tom Bowles, in my opinion. Mike Evans, bringing him back was big, obviously. Chris Godwin has just consistently been solid, so borderline one at certain seasons when he's played this with potentially fully healthy. Underrated draft pick. I love Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan was one of my highest rated wide receivers in the draft this year. Everywhere else on the offense is a little iffy. Obviously, Tristan Wirfs is awesome.
Yep.
Graham Barton is your starting center, and I can't name the other three guys on this line.
Cody Mauk.
I can name Cody Mauk, actually. I cannot name. I don't know who Luke Godeke is.
He is in his third year out of Central Michigan.
I think so.
And I don't know
draft.
Ben Bredesen.
I know
So the O-line right now I'm
He's
putting in the
done
average-ish tier.
Yeah, you're right.
So the O-line right now I'm putting in the average-ish tier. It could get hopefully it's good. The defense is my biggest question.
Yeah, that's why I haven't won 7 games.
The linebacker core is solid. I like Levante David. I like Joe Tyrone, even though he kind of was an outside linebacker, edge rusher, but he
pass rusher.
KJ Britt. What the hell is KJ Britt in 2024?
I didn't even know.
What the hell is Zion McCollum in 2024? That's my greater issue. This secondary
is bad.
I
like the safeties. I like Anton Winfield. Jordan Whitehead is whatever. I think he's average.
Yeah.
Jamal Dean.
But even Winfield wasn't the same player last year, and I think
first team All Pro.
Yeah, he was one of the best safeties
he's not
in football.
deserving of that. I didn't believe at the time. I
believe it.
What?
Believe it.
I just didn't. I think he took a step back. He's been injury prone over the course of his career. I don't like this secondary at all.
Javier Thomas, Texans version.
I feel I'm concerned about how they're going to continue moving forward because they seem to be stuck in this transitional period in which they want to kind of move to a changing of the guard defensively. Moving on from that Levante David, Devin White.
Levante Davis.
Yeah, but moving on from those veterans to this younger defense. and I love Vita Vea. I think he's a cornerstone. I think Winfield you can view as a cornerstone, but I think the pieces around them are going to continue to shuffle, and they got really, really lucky with just playing a lot of bad offenses in the NFC South the last year. Now, that's going to continue, I would say.
But I mean, even like
a first place schedule now. I mean,
but like even like last year, like I know the Eagles weren't what the Eagles should have been, but they killed you guys, and then they kept it really damn close with the Lions. Last year, it's not like they got lucky and then showed up to the playoffs and got smacked.
Yeah,
like they proved they deserved to be there. Which is why I'm high on them, even though like I don't think the secondary has changed much. Obviously, you lose Carlton Davis.
Yeah,
that's probably the only big change in the secondary.
But I think that's a big change.
I think it can be a big change too. But I think as long as you have a good scheme, which who knows with Todd Bowles, like it's some games you think he's like.
I have no questions about Todd Bowles schematically, I don't think. I think what Todd Bowles has been able to do really since the Super Bowl in, creating pressure and then playing his kind of, Fangio-esque zone. I like what Todd Bowles has done at the NFL level for that defense. I just don't know if they have the players to back it up. And so that's my greater issue there. I think there's a lot of questions there. And then offensively, Canales was really at the heart of this Baker revival.
Yep.
And I think, I don't know what kind of role. He did call plays, right?
Yeah.
So, moving on from that into a complete shift, I think is going to be an adjustment for Baker coming off a year in which he gained so much confidence in himself as a different quarterback. I think they're going to see, maybe some slow starts early. So
he's still good. He has the talent.
No, it's not a question about Baker.
It seems like Dave Canales, what he was able to do, and kind of go back and see what he succeeded in most when he was in Cleveland, and bring back a lot of that play-action style offense, which is what Baker was, when Baker was at his best in Cleveland, is that a lot of the play. He was one of the best play-action quarterbacks in football. Yeah. I don't know who the offense coordinator is now. I'm not
Cohen, right?
Who?
Exactly.
If he comes in and just does the same thing, I have no problems.
Yeah.
Similar scheme, no problem. If they try changing things and stuff, then Baker's gonna have a rough time. And then my prediction goes from 10 wins to 4. Yeah. Not 4, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But if they run things similarly to the way they did last year, I have no doubt that this just ends up as the same.
Yeah, I think the main issue for me is the pass rush. It's just really not it.
Yeah.
Because they're putting a ton of stock in the young guys, which I respect, but I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
Joe Tryon, Logan Hall, Yaya Diaby, Clyde Cansey. I like
Yaya Diaby.
Yeah, they're cool, and but when you replace Jack Barrett with Chris Braswell, I'm kind of very iffy about that.
Yeah.
And the secondary, I think, it was already mediocre to begin with, but losing Carlton Davis makes it actively bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Vontae David, he's been one of the best linebackers in the league for a decade.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's gonna have to slow down.
I don't know, man. It really hasn't, and I think continuing to have him as that cornerstone is so important. I understood the Graham Barton pick, but drafting either his successor or someone in the secondary. I don't remember who was available, but that giant corner slip occurred.
Cooper
was there,
Kool-Aid
and his Rakestraw, Kool-Aid, So I think I would have prioritized that, even though I have Barton probably higher on my board than most of those guys. I'd say DeJean was the only one that I had, above Barton. But I'm just going to continue to have those questions, I would say. And I don't think they're a bad football team. It wouldn't shock me if they won 10 games by any means.
Yeah.
But
that's why I'm settling on 7. It's
I agree with you guys.
I think their floor is probably the 7. And I'd probably go somewhere in between.
But I just like the upside, and a lot of the times when I make these predictions, I just go based on what I've seen, which is why sometimes I end up
which is why they'll probably win 8 games.
Yeah, they could win 8, they could win 9. I still see them sneaking in anyway. But like I saw what I saw last year.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of their great players return.
Yeah.
You know, kept the head coach. A lot of personnel outside of Canales is still there. There's no reason for me not to believe in them.
Yeah.
That's the same. Like I don't any comments on the peanut gallery. That's why I picked the Raiders records based on why I did the Raiders records, because a lot of what I saw last year stayed. I mean, that's why I wanted to see. That's why I picked them the way I did. That's why I picked Cleveland. I have Cleveland winning less games because I see a lot of the same things on the field, except I have Deshaun Watson on the field, not Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco debatably was better on the field.
You
Deshaun
really
Watson.
was. It's not even debatable.
That's why I make these picks the way I do, and that's why I have them winning 10 games. That's why I have the Raiders winning 10. That's why I have the Browns winning 9. This is why we see these things. So that's kind of like why. So New Orleans sucks. That's why I have them winning 6 games.
I have them winning 6. Yeah.
Like.
They're just not good.
Cannot stand.
I don't know, man.
They're not awful, but they're definitely not good.
Derek Carr certified like cool
certified
dude.
mid.
Certified bad.
Yeah.
Certified cool dude. You know, like he was fun in like his heyday in Oakland. It was a bad contract. He was bad last year. Let it go. Alvin Kamara, I think, is washed. Chris Olave is cool.
Cool.
Michael Thomas,
Gone.
Is he gone?
Yeah.
He's a free agent now.
Yeah.
He's not on a roster.
Yeah.
Okay, so outside of Chris Olave, like what do we have?
Rashid
Shaheed, Marquez Callaway, like we just like these people aren't real.
Cedric Wilson.
Yeah, A.T. Perry is his name.
A.T. Perry, yes, like they're not good. I'm sorry.
The line is really mediocre.
The Trevor Penning experiment has like.
Haha, that's another Howie masterclass.
Yeah.
The defense has
They're the same.
They're the same as last year. They have good players on the roster. Cameron Jordan, good football player. Tyrann Mathieu, decent football player. Paulson Adebo, solid football player. Marshawn Lattimore, sorry, decent football player.
Lonte Taylor's cool.
Who else is there?
Kool-Aid's cool.
Kool-Aid.
Well, objectively, that's his name.
I just I think for me, I see this as a team that could either win 10 games or 4, and
that's why I'm
at
6.
Somewhere in the middle. It comes down to me. I think this defense could, by some means, be above average. Somewhat.
This is assuming Chase
Young
is like.
12. Chase Young could step in and be. Demario Davis is still out here kicking. I think he's still a top linebacker.
Willie Gay,
I didn't remember Chase Young and Demario Davis were on the roster.
Dennis Allen, I think,
is a bad
objectively is a bad coach, but is a good defensive coordinator.
Shouldn't
I think
be given that much.
What he has run this defense through schematically, I think they've continued to be a really solid unit. Offensively, it's just the continued struggles, the continued kind of pushing it down the road, right? You are refusing to enter this rebuild and continuing, kind of what I worried about with Washington a year ago, retool. How much can you retool before you're eventually, thrown into the ground? I think that eventually did happen last year. They lose that embarrassing game to the Carolina Panthers and lose the division. Yeah. So it's finally come, I'd say, to the precipice of the complete teardown. I think we're probably a year away.
But they're so, the thing is, they can't tear it down. They have no cap room. They have somehow for the last 5 years just been, locked in cap hell.
Yep.
If you're going to tear it down, you might not win a game next year if you tear it down because you're going to tear it all down and you're going to have a practice squad.
Yeah, and they haven't drafted well either.
No.
So it's just continued Chris Olave.
They've drafted
some of the corners.
They've either drafted amazing or they've drafted shit. I don't think they
just haven't really hit in the middle to late.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
You gotta do it.
Like the people they draft either turn into studs or they just turn in you didn't even know they existed. The last good draft pick was outside of Olave was probably Paulson Adebo.
Which was 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I just continue to have my questions. Carr's as vanilla as it gets, and will continue to be as vanilla as it gets. Seeing him continue to make check down reads on balls that he simply doesn't have the confidence to throw is mind-boggling to me. I cannot watch them on NFL Sunday Ticket anymore.
Well, yeah, you have no reason to.
Taking it out of my box.
Yeah, it's good for your sanity.
So I'm just I wanted to kind of sneak them in as like a, hey, this could be my sleeper pick in the NFC South, but I can't do it.
That's almost as bad as picking like the Raiders.
It is. It's like
probably worse.
It's definitely worse. So I couldn't turn it around. I have them winning 7 games, and you know it is what it is. Yeah. They just continue to bury themselves.
Yeah, I think 6 for me is like it's probably not even the worst.
No,
it's not even the floor, but I think it's just assuming that Derek Carr is going to be bad.
Yeah,
and he's capable of being average to good.
Yeah,
but I don't
all the time.
see that anymore.
Yeah, and I think as the athleticism continues to decline into not athleticism, it's going to continue to fall down as well.
And I mean, we don't usually talk about tackles like we do corners, rookies, but I think it should be because having Penning and Fuaga as your tackle duo is definitely a question mark. I think Fuaga is quite good.
Yeah, I think Fuaga could be ready right away. It just continues to be the Penning experiment, man.
Yeah.
We saw it. I wasn't
having
as a pick.
Yeah, but having Lucas Patrick as the other guy on the left side just is not. It's not going to translate into good football.
They're so young. They're not going to be able to run the ball.
They have 2 proven guys, and it's Eric McCoy and Taylor Ruiz, who are both fine.
Yep. Everyone is going to play nickel on every single down.
Yeah.
And they're
and other than Chase Young and Cameron Jordan, the pass rush is so mid. Carl Anderson, Kalen Saunders, sorry, Brian Rizzi.
Hey.
Christian Boyd from UNI is cool, but it's just because, like, Isaiah Foskey, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. It's a disaster, man.
Yeah. They will not, they could be terrible, but I just think they will be in that unbearable, just mediocrity.
You know who definitely will be terrible?
Carolina Panthers. Holy cow.
I think the offense will be better than it was last year.
But
I think the O-line, they
paid a bunch of money to mid guards, so.
Yeah. So I think the O-line will be a little anywhere between below average to average. I don't think they'll be bad at any point.
Yeah,
But
I don't think Bryce Young is going to get murdered as viciously as he was.
I think
he might die a little bit.
I like Chuba Hubbard. I don't like him as a running back.
Jonathan Brooks.
Jonathan Brooks is. I love Jonathan Brooks in college.
Yeah.
I think that's a fine.
The ghost of Miles Sanders.
That's a fun run. It's a fine running back room. Has potential to be fun.
Yeah, adding Deontay Johnson.
The potential to be good. I like the Deontay Johnson.
Xavier Legette, dog.
Xavier Legette's a dog. Adam Thielen
is he
was
healthy?
solid. Who? Legette?
Yeah.
Even if they're not, but he might miss a couple of weeks. But even so, I like the duo.
Yeah. You have Deontay and Thielen and
Deontay and Thielen.
Is Chark still there?
Chark's still there.
That's fine.
I feel I know I'm a little bit higher on Bryce Young than Adam is. I feel like we saw some good sign of Bryce Young last year. When he had a little bit of time to throw, there were good things that happened, and he was able to make some plays. I think the funniest part is what?
It was just a nightmare for him.
It was a nightmare situation. It was what people thought C.J. Stroud was going into at Houston.
Yeah.
And everything, it was just completely, the narratives were just completely flipped. The results that people thought were completely flipped. Another thing I think about is a lot of people talked about Bryce Young's big playability. Somebody on Twitter went and that amazing throw that everyone's seen from Caleb Williams, and they just found 4 or 5 clips of Bryce Young doing that same thing successfully last season. We know the Bryce Young talent is there. It's just, can it come out at the NFL level?
I think Dave Canales could do it.
Dave Canales, we want to talk about revitalizing Baker Mayfield's career, a guy who was dead to rights as a Panther, and what it was existed on the Rams. It's just gonna be I would love to see Bryce Young be good, just because he was fun in college. He was a good. It was a good draft pick. It was the right draft pick to most, not to me, but to most. I think he turns it around a bit. I just think that defense sucks.
There are guys, but
there are guys,
Derrick Brown's good.
Derrick Brown's good.
Shaq Thompson's okay.
Shaq Thompson has been
you lose Jeremy Chin and Brian Burns.
Shaq Thompson,
J.C. Horn.
Shaq Thompson, I wouldn't even say he's good anymore, but it's just a good veteran presence because the guy who's been good before to lead the younger guys. But losing Brian Burns and like
It's
the
huge.
picks and like the picks you got for that like will end up being something good ideally if management can do it. And the defense is just like it's going to be the worst in football.
Probably.
Could be.
It's going to be anywhere from 30 to 32 ranked in football.
Yeah.
The ceiling is 25th. It's just bad all around. I like Dave. Like we talked about how much we love Dave Canales in Tampa Bay. I hope he brings those same offensive schemes to Carolina. I think I think Bryce Young's gonna have an average quarterback season. Hopefully, I like the weapons that have been put around him. The O-line could be fine. If not,
Could be.
we probably
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of well resounded seeing that Bryce Young and I think you're on the minority side that think that Bryce Young's cooked. I think a lot of people have really realized watching the film from last year just how terrible a card Bryce Young was handed, and it happens. Shit happens.
Now, I think it goes both sides. I agree with the terrible
no,
card. No, I agree with the
And
terrible
I
card.
agree, and I'm going to agree with you. You're going to say that there were some.
Well,
There were some yes, there were times where it was like, wow, he really did that. Wow, he
it's
really
not
did
even
that.
about that. What I believe is Bryce Young's premier talent and what was believed about him coming out of the NFL, coming into the draft, was that his ability to create out of structure was what made him so special, right? It's the same thing that we view about Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
So, is he going to be able to do that without the elite arm strength that we saw in college? Because he did not show that on film last year.
Yeah, but how many times?
Without
you have
the size, to be, and I mean, really the athleticism at times to be able to kind of maneuver and work a pocket without the presence there.
But what I'm trying to get you to see is how do you yes, the arm we didn't really see much of the arm strength on film, but how many times did you really see him just be able to get in the pocket and just chuck up a ball?
I think enough. He was
I
so.
don't think there was enough. I don't
but-
think he really
I think
90%
part
of the
of-
season.
I think part of what was that offensive line crumbling was that Young's insistence on having to get out of structure because he could not be a pocket presence as a quarterback.
You can't be a pocket
because of
presence when there's
his
no pocket.
size. There was no his insistence on holding onto the ball for as long as he did and working, himself into situations. It was very similar to what we talked about with Sam Howell.
But
so
this is what I'm trying to say. You can't ding him for not having a good pocket presence when you have less than 2 seconds to throw.
But I think he was
that's
bailing
also,
out of clean pockets too early as well. I think you'll watch that on film.
Yeah, and I think you watch that on film, but that's also something that just gets better as you become more experienced.
It does, but I can't feel confident about it having not seen it. And what I saw with the arm strength, I think is incredibly concerning.
But we didn't see him truly. We never
I think
really
we
saw
did.
a part where you could truly showcase
I
it.
think we did.
Where?
I think all across film you see him just
You don't see it anywhere.
attempting to push the ball, and it's just not.
Why? When
the
he's
same.
running for his life?
Yes, because he's bailing out of clean pockets.
Yeah, there are no clean pockets.
There are clean
There
pockets.
are no clean
dude.
pockets.
It was
That
a
Panthers
bad
game-
line, but it wasn't the worst line in the NFL.
It wasn't the worst line in the NFL, thankfully, because the Giants had a historically bad season. It was the 31st
It
worst.
it was bad all around, and he was not given pieces to succeed. But there were still a lot of situations in which Bryce Young was creating havoc for Bryce Young.
We've seen that out of a lot of players before.
We have,
saw it,
but not
Honestly-
out of 5'8"
honestly-
players.
But
Not
we
out of
saw
5'8"
it out of
players.
CJ Stroud
And
the
I
beginning
feel
of the year
bad.
last year.
I feel bad. You know what I mean? But it's the reality. So it's what I worried about with Kyler Murray. And I think we've kind of flipped the script now, in which we'll take these 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" guys without issue because of some of the success that Kyler has had and that other quarterbacks have similar. Russell Wilson, being kind of the key before. But there are serious issues with these kind of quarterbacks and the strength and the power and the mobility that they're able to have because of their size.
But I think But like what I'm trying to say, I think this year with better weapons, with a better line, with better coaching, that was also a big issue.
Yeah,
Let's be
Frank
real.
Reich.
Yeah.
Like Frank Reich was
Yeah,
horrible last season.
Absolutely.
I think the playbook there's going to be a huge adjustment in the playbook.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more. I think a lot of the things we saw from Frank Reich is like even though the O-line was bad, it was like all right, just drop back and Thiel's going to run a post and just pray that the line holds up. And if it didn't hold up, the play's blown up. I think we're going to see a lot of with Dave Canal. I think we're going to see a lot of like short route trees with the receivers, and we're going to see a lot of the receivers working from rack. Just why rack yak whatever it is with receivers. I don't whatever. Until the O-line bolsters, until Bryce Young is able to develop into the guy we thought he was going to be, and that is how you're going to maximize
That's fine.
Bryce Young's talent now, and that's how you're going to maximize the progression of Bryce Young.
Yeah, if you didn't show the arm strength, the speed, the pocket awareness, the accuracy to be able to fit those balls into short windows, running that short offense doesn't work either. So I think across the entirety of the Bryce, I know, I agree. You have to experiment. You have to give it more than a year.
You have to experiment. You have to, because if we gave up on quarterbacks after 1 year,
no, I agree.
Trevor Lawrence wouldn't be here.
No,
like there's so many. Like Peyton Manning, we wouldn't even know who that is.
But guess what? Trevor Lawrence was 6'4", 240 pounds.
Trevor Lawrence is 6'6".
Whatever, 6'6".
I know it's not helping me, but
Peyton Manning was, 6'4", whatever. This was already a risk at a 5'8". I'm not even as worried about the 5'8".
He's not 5'8". He's 5'10".
Okay.
Like, come on. Like
if
you're kind of just like.
If I put some cleats on,
they measure. Good thing they measure without cleats.
And then the weight, which I think is an even bigger issue, dude. I mean, he's
at least
200
Kyler's
pounds.
At least Kyler's
got, Kyler's got like the Kyle Lowry build. And
Kyler Murray makes the same.
Kyler Murray has muscle. Kyler Murray has muscle. Bryce Young does not have that.
Yeah.
So look at two pictures of Kyler Murray and Bryce Young.
I get it, but I'm just saying you can't judge based off of 1 year.
You
Trevor Lawrence's first year and Trevor Lawrence's second year. Not only does he look better, he looks him as a like skill wise, body wise, and IQ wise is a completely different quarterback. The same way Peyton Manning was. Like you have to give it now. If he's bad this year, if there's still questions this year, then I will sit here and bash him with you. But it's not fair to do so after one season in one of the worst situations any top 5 pick has ever been.
But when we have a first-round quarterback and we list these are all the issues which we could expect to have happen, and then in the first year we literally see every single one of those issues in flashing form, I'm gonna worry.
Yes,
and so that's
I'm gonna worry too, but I'm also gonna worry when my head coach, who was supposed to be this offensive mastermind, got fired faster than Urban Meyer did.
Well, I don't think that's a necessarily like, he was worse than Urban Meyer. I think that's Tom Telesco. They're not Tom Telesco, but Trent Baalke was the the mastermind at the hands of that.
Still, that's not good.
No, it's bad. It's bad. I agree. It's a horrible situation.
And
I hope he develops.
I feel the coordinator sucks. He will develop. It's impossible not to develop from the disastrous season he's had.
I don't know.
Especially when we've all been praising Dave Canal as, he fixed Baker. And I said this earlier, quarterback whisperer kind of guy.
Yeah.
And we can't just Bryce Young isn't you're making it sound like Bryce Young isn't fixable.
I don't know if he's fixable.
That's not fair to say.
I don't know. I don't know if he's fixable.
But a year ago today,
if you're saying I don't know, you're saying no. You're saying no.
I don't know. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying I have more questions about him being fixable than I do Trevor Lawrence. I have more questions about him being fixable than I do who's another quarter.
Peyton Manning, just for the
I'm not saying.
No, we're not saying Peyton Manning. Jared Goff.
Yes, then Jared Goff. Then
he was a top
Carson Wentz. You know what I mean?
Decent.
Carson Wentz was below average. So it's like you have those questions.
All right, you're kind
I
of.
love how we're going on this big soapbox where we all think they're gonna suck.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't think Bryce Young is the reason they're going to suck.
Yeah, it's just because they're a rebuilding team.
They are.
They have respectable pieces.
Yeah. And I
They're
like
marginally better than last year.
the defense is well coached. I love Evans, and I love what he does for them. I think if J.C. Horn's able to stay healthy, you never know.
Would be
Like there's pieces. It's very frustrating from the top to see them manage their high level talent the way they did.
They're also
Brian
an abysmal
Burns.
organization. Right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to continue to have questions there as well.
I mean, I don't like the money amounts at all for Robert Hunter, Damian Lewis, but I think having both of them on the line is pretty significant.
Yes.
Because, I mean, we could talk about Bryce's just sort of lack of, I guess, awareness or just football IQ, for being honest.
Yeah.
Just not being able to know when to evade a pocket and not, and just sort of just doing his own thing.
Yeah.
But I think adding two guards that are at least solid is so big. It'll take some of the pressure off of Ike Raquan, who had a down year.
Yeah.
And I don't know how healthy Jonathan Brooks is, but if the run game is at least competent, as opposed to Miles Sanders, sorry, Eagles legend and all, fumbled in the Super Bowl. But like we're not expecting them to be good, but I expect Bryce Young to be a little better. Like I'm not ready to write him off. I'm not, but I'm not ignoring the red flags because they're definitely there.
They exist.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to the NFC West now.
Yes.
Yeah. So see you then.
Thank God this one.
The NFC West, we're back.
Okay, this one's a lot easier. Okay, this is under the assumption Brandon Ayuk plays.
Yes.
Mine is under.
Okay.
Mine doesn't even need to be.
Okay. I mean, I say 13-4 with
Yeah.
Brandon Ayuk, but if he's not there, then like 12-5. I don't think it's that significant.
Yeah.
Seahawks 8-9, Rams 6-11, Cardinals 5-12.
All right.
Seahawks, what were we the Seahawks?
8-9.
Niners 12-5, Seahawks 9-8, Rams 9-8, and the Cardinals at 7-10.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
The Cardinals are terrible.
They're not that bad, but
The
they're
Cardinals.
bad.
Oh my God. Okay. 49ers 13-4, Seahawks 9-8, Rams 7-10.
Actually, this says 6-11.
Cardinals 4-13.
I think
This-
5.5 is like
This
nice.
says 6-11. I thought I'd change it. To
They
6.
will win a few more games than we would.
Can we start with the Cardinals?
Sure.
Okay. Can I give my case here?
Yep. No. Yes.
Yeah.
Because yes, because I see the Yes, because I see the upside.
Okay.
So yes, go.
This offense is fun, man. It's fun. I think the addition of Marvin Harrison as a true one is going to be really special. And then I think what was so underrated about this Cardinals team was their ability to run the football over the second half of the season. James Conner was awesome, and this offensive line over the second half of the season was awesome. Paris Johnson Jr. over the second half of the season was awesome.
Now you have Jonah Williams.
They add Jonah Williams to it, and I know he
shit on
had
Jonah
his
Williams
struggles.
yesterday.
I know he had his struggles in Cincinnati, and I will continue to shit on him for what he did there. But the year before that, the guy was pretty talented. Will Hernandez stepped it up last year. They are a talented offense that was able to carry through last season, and I expect that to continue. Trey McBride, great blocker, good receiver, and I think just the style in which they play football with this kind of smash mouth run game opens a lot up for Kyler Murray. And so it would not surprise me if this is a team that is like top 10 in offensive DVOA just because, they're well coached and they have, talent there.
We didn't think we would say that.
On the other side of the football, I understand
so
your
bad.
concerns.
So
this is
bad.
part of where I kind of start, reaching a little bit. This defensive line is not to improve. But
You do have
Bilal Nichols,
you know, University of Delaware legend Bilal Nichols.
yes, exists. We love to see him. Zaven Collins, I think as a pass rusher is fun. I don't know about him in coverage. As a pass rusher, he's fine.
Well, he doesn't even play coverage anymore. They just put him in. He's an edge rusher now.
Yeah.
They're doing them like a thing.
I think Sean Murphy-Bunting was better last year. I think he showed some things. Kaiser White was better last year than he was as an Eagle. Buda Baker is still awesome. It's not good. It's not fun. But I think Jonathan Gannon actually makes it fun.
Yeah, he'll elevate it a little more.
I think what he did with this defense last year and kind of attempting to cover for their flaws, they were so bad. Like, they were really bad. And yet they weren't the worst team in defensive DVOA. They were like fifth to last or something.
Yep.
So I think they'll continue to, be on an upwards trajectory. This is a team that is like a year away from being a year away. I was telling Nathan in the car, I call them the football hipster team. That's what everybody refers to them on all the podcasts I listen to, and I understand that. I think, there are definitely people who are probably reaching on them a little bit. I've heard, you guys think 6 or 7 is crazy. I've heard 9 wins for the Arizona Cardinals, within the past 24 hours.
This is assuming that, Marvin Harrison plays like his dad.
Yes.
Like, his dad is prime.
Yes, exactly.
He's a Hall of Fame receiver.
Exactly. So, I like this team. I think they're fun.
Yeah,
I think they're going to win some games in December that mean something. And
for them.
Yes.
So, and I get it. I totally agree with you that the defense sucks. I'm not as high on the offense as you are.
I mean, the offense would be
We've
fine.
never been as high on Kyler Murray.
I've obviously never been as high on Kyler Murray as, the others who played it. The O-line, I don't think is that good.
Yeah, it's average.
It's bad.
It's
bad
not
outside
bad.
of Paris Johnson.
It was good last year.
Yeah, it was good last year. But I think this year, outside of Paris Johnson, they're not great.
It feels a little funky, but
Trey McBride's cool.
Yeah,
Marv is also cool.
Cool.
But
I like Michael
core,
Wilson.
Your big problem is
but they shouldn't. They would have no business being a number 2 or number 3 on any college football team.
Yeah, if Marv gets hurt, Kyler Murray is throwing to
Greg
what people think Michael Jordan played against, Plumbers.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
They just play a tough schedule, so obviously they win our division. They might not win, outside of the Rams. I don't think they'll beat. They probably won't beat the Seahawks. They probably won't beat the 49ers once.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
The biggest thing for me, the D-line is bad, but the secondary just might be one of the worst units in the league.
They might be, but again, I like Murphy-Bunting.
Yeah, you just have to assume that all the young guys are going to step up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can. Garrett Williams is cool.
Absolutely.
Max Melton, okay. Elijah Jones out of BC is cool. Keyshawn Clark out of Louisville. These are guys, but I cannot reasonably assume that this secondary is going to be at least average just because there's so many question marks. And the defensive line, as it says on ESPN.com, is Xavier Collins, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, Dante Stills.
It's not good.
Yeah.
And Darius Robinson is probably going to play more than this says. Major Delary says he's on IR right now. Cam Thomas, not the empty stats merchant in Brooklyn, but he's cool.
I was even higher on them when they had Ojulari. I think Ojulari is a special player.
Yeah,
If he's able to come off IR on time, he'll be special. But it's tough, man.
It's a rebuilding team. We know this.
They dealt themselves a tough hand 2 off seasons ago, and they're still trying to climb their way out of it. But for them to be as fun as they were last year over the second half of the season, I expect them to carry that over.
Yeah, Michael doesn't like Trey Benson. I am sort of coming around to his opinion because, if you give James Conner 75% of the carries, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you still have Amari DiMercado and Michael Carter.
Yeah.
Back there, so.
Yeah.
They'll be fun theoretically. I guess they're a Sunday ticket team just for
exactly
shits and gigs, but that's kind of it. 5-12, that's what they are.
That's what they are. That's fine.
I guess we can work up. We'll say the Rams.
Okay, I don't understand this from you guys.
Yeah. I was the highest in the Rams last year.
Yeah.
Y'all thought I was insane.
Yeah.
So now I think you're insane.
No.
So
You're saying they're gonna win 9 games.
I think Raheem Morris, as you guys said earlier, was on the elevated.
Because y'all thought the defense was like Swiss cheese.
I think the defense still might be Swiss cheese, but I think the offense is going to be better.
But
I just don't
this is
know
my
about
thing.
Cooper Kupp. That's just the thing.
The defense was elevated by Raheem Morris.
And the greatest defensive player.
And the
of
greatest
generation.
defensive player we've seen in the last
And
30
maybe
years.
ever.
Maybe ever. Now they're both gone, and I think the defense comes back down to life, and I think they're going to be bad.
Yeah.
The offense, Matt Stafford is obviously great. Kyron Williams had a breakout year last year. It was so fun to watch. I don't like the O-line.
What? They were great last year, dude.
I know. I might be thinking of something. Aren't they old?
No,
It's
they're,
actually
they're
decent.
relatively in between.
Steve Avila's a dog.
Yeah, I really.
I'm thinking about Seattle.
I'm
thinking about Seattle's O-line.
Rob
Adam
like,
Jackson's good, obviously.
Yeah, Dodson.
No, I'm sorry.
Like,
I've messed up. I'm thinking about the Seattle O-line.
Yeah.
I like the O-line. I think the offense is the strong point.
Yeah.
However,
The defense is so bad.
Puka Nacua, if I'm not mistaken, has been dealing with injuries in camp.
Yes.
Cooper Kupp is amazing when healthy,
But he hasn't
but
been
hasn't been
healthy
healthy
in a
since
couple
he
years.
was the greatest receiver ever.
Yeah.
It felt like.
And they're
Where else are we here? Like
I don't the
Davis
defense,
Allen is your starting tight end. As much as I love Clemson, and Davis Allen is fine.
Higbee,
but like,
I guess, but he's
who?
Higbee's iffy. Like
Higbee has also been iffy the last couple years. Matt Stafford has struggled with staying healthy the last 2 years. I mean, like last year was certainly better than the year before, but still, like it kind of felt like he was banged up all season.
Yeah.
They're I don't know who their backup is. It's still Bryce Perkins.
It's Destin Bennett and or Jimmy Garoppolo.
Holy shit! Okay, that's
Bennett's gonna
even
get
worse
cut.
than Bryce Perkins.
Bennett's gonna get cut. He's been horrible.
Like I love Sean McVay. I think the offense will keep them in games. I think it's just hard when your defense is probably going to be allowed 30 points.
I don't know, man. I just
the
think
secondary is bad.
Yeah, for me.
And when you're in a division
and when
that
you
has Marvin
have
Harrison Jr. on one team, the other team has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and the other team has Debo, George Kittle, and
Brandon
Ayuk,
and CMC,
and Chris McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like I think you're destined for failure. I think this is going to be not a rebuilding year, but just kind of a transition year.
Obviously.
It's going to be your first year without Aaron Donald in 11 years. I think you can go into the offseason next year, kind of try to add some defensive pieces in the draft and all that, and maybe in 2025.
Matt Stafford might just call it.
But
Matt Stafford might just call it. I think you maybe go into 2025 feeling like you're more of a contender. This just doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. But I think there are still pieces on the defense that we shouldn't ignore. Ernest Jones was really good last year. Brayton Fisk, I wasn't the highest on him coming out of the draft, but he's definitely, a solid D end. I don't know if he's a three-down D end.
I'm more higher. I'm comfortably higher on Jared Burns, but I don't even know if he's going to produce like that.
Yep. Kobe Turner.
But the thing with Kobe,
I know he got so much off of Aaron Donald.
No. I was going to say the thing about Kobe Turner and Byron Young is also Aaron Donald. Yes, obviously that made their job easier, but they got the reps because they had nobody else.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were good, like objectively.
Really good, especially Kobe Turner.
Yeah, just because I don't know if they can sustain that.
I
obviously
think
without Aaron Donald, which is very difficult.
I think it'll be different because Kobe Turner is going to be doubled for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
And I think that's something. But if those other young guys are able to step up,
but that's such a hypothetical. Like,
I know.
I can't.
I understand. But I think my problems are more on the back end than that because Turner and Young have showed they can do it at some level at the very least. Darius Williams I like a lot. Out of Jacksonville, I thought he had a solid year.
Yeah.
But outside of that,
Nicholas
it's a really
Quinton Lake,
bad.
dude.
Yeah, and Tre'Davious White is just not going to stay healthy.
He's just
Like
not
this,
going to.
I get what you're saying, but like
Can't
everything you're telling me is like.
Yeah, it's
it's like me. This feels like me trying to explain the Raiders to you. Where I'm like, that might be good, and that might be good, and that might be good, and the pieces, and if they all come together, then it'll be good. But if one link goes wrong, then they're all terrible, which is what is happening with the Raiders. And that's what's happening with the Rams.
You tried to compare the Raiders to the Jets last year. I think this is truly the Jets last year.
Yeah.
With kind of offense and defense switched. There's a lot of injury questions on both sides of the ball. Are they going to be able to work it out? But I have the utmost faith in McVay. I have the utmost faith in this offense and how they operate on a day-to-day basis, how they've operated for the past really 5 years professionally. I think think it would be insulting to them, honestly, to not have them carry to at least a 500 record, given how talented. I think they could be one of the three best offenses in the NFL.
I'm not worried about anybody's feelings.
Yeah, I know. But if this is one of the three best offenses in the NFL,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it's going
but
to
they might even not be the best offense in their own division.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
This is going on the blooper reel next year.
I don't know.
Let's book it.
I don't know.
Lock it in.
I don't know.
All right, well, then we're just going to move on to the 49ers.
Okay.
Dude, they might not even be a top, 2 offense in this division.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about your Seahawks. Let's talk about your Seahawks.
Because if you move up north
to the
your boy Geno Smith,
Yep.
who you use the same logic I used for Gardner Minshew, but we're gonna ignore it. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not,
that one guy was a top 10 quarterback for a season. Just saying.
A season,
yeah. Cool.
Nah, I don't think Gardner Minshew's
that's
done
cute.
that.
That's fine, are you? Yeah, and then had the rest.
Gardner Minshew was on the thumbnail for with 2 of our videos.
Was he really?
Yep.
That's
yeah,
kinda
we did
scary.
the quarterback ranking. He was on the part 2 because he was bottom half of the league.
Oh God.
But Baker
It's a
was on there too,
scary
and Kyler.
Okay.
Kenneth Walker's awesome.
Receiver room
DK
stacked.
Metcalf is awesome.
Yep.
No fan, dog.
Noah Fant, dog. Tyler Lockett, dog. Jackson Smith and Jigba. I hope to God is a dog.
I assume
He is a
Jay.
dog.
This year, I assume JSN's
No.
He was much better in the second half.
No. All offseason, you tried convincing me that he was
No.
bad. So
No, he's
don't
not
even,
bad.
no.
He's
Moving
not
on.
bad.
No.
He's not bad. Nope.
I'll put the receipts.
Okay.
I'll put the receipts on the video.
I assume this season JSN is probably going to overtake Tyler Lockett by the end of the year.
Absolutely. But probably now.
Yeah, it's
He
totally
was
possible.
used in the proper way
Just-
for the Shane Waldron
yeah.
offense with the tackles that they were dealing with.
Just the big things the line. Like losing
Yeah.
Damian Lewis shouldn't be as significant as it is, but now the line is Charles Cross, Lincoln Thomas, and Connor Williams, Anthony Bradford, and Abe Lucas.
But I think if Cross and Lucas are able to stay healthy.
Well, it says I see an O next to it. Right?
Yes, Abe Lucas is already dealing with injuries in camp.
And
But-
I hope Christian Haynes got some playing time because his dog.
Yeah.
But
those
that's
tackles were kind of the benchmarks of that team that made the playoffs 2 years ago. If they're able to stay healthy, this is a top 10 offense.
But I don't see that. I don't see that.
I don't see it happening either. And also, Geno was a good story 2 years ago. He regressed a bit
He
last
did
year.
not.
I think he'll
Dude,
be.
he was under the amount of pressure that he was under on a
poor
constant basis
poor baby.
that didn't allow them to unlock the Seahawks' downfield passing game was the key to
This
their
is funny.
offense 2 years
This
ago.
is really funny.
And so
Just
with
so far.
their inability to kind of have the time to be able to unlock that, and don't even with the Bryce Young shit, because I know what you're about to do. Yes, he's 6'3", and has a cannon for an arm, and one of probably the 5 biggest arms in football. So he's a top 10. He could be a top 10 quarterback again this year. He's absolutely, worthy of his starting position. Get my Sam Howell takes out of here. And I think
Walker Temple Legend, hello.
if
Dude,
those
I'm not
two tackles
saying
are healthy,
anything, but I think there is obviously, in my opinion, there was some regression last year. He wasn't as smart with the ball as he was 2 years ago. Yes, I understand more pressure, blah blah blah. Things happen that are outside of your control.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what to think. If I think of him as that top 10 quarterback right now, or if I think of him as that mid quarterback we saw last year, which is one of my problems, which I'm sure could be solved. Another thing I am not great on is that defense. I love bringing in Mike McDonald. I think that elevates your defense a lot, but I don't like a lot of the pieces that are on that defense. I think it's kind of I don't like it as much as I've liked it in the past years. I obviously think losing Pete Carroll is a big deal because, your opinions about him or whatever. Pete Carroll has been one of the best coaches in the NFL in the last 10 years.
10 years, yeah. I think
I
it's similar to the Belichick thing where a voice kind of wears out.
And or Doug.
And
That's like what we're talking about with Doug.
Yeah.
It's like, just hang him up.
Yeah, you're running.
And Pete Carroll was smart to move into the role that he
Yes,
did.
I agree. But I think to have a new style of defense, a new brand of defense, a physical, exotic brand of defense is really exciting for the Seahawks team, and they have the players to do it. You think about Tariq Woolen, what were his issues last year in Seattle, right? It was the inability to kind of hold up in, the basic base zones that Pete Carroll was throwing at him, and teams, wouldn't let him be kind of that man coverage merchant almost, and let him be that physical guy. Yeah. He's going to be able to do that in the Seattle offense. Devin Witherspoon is going to be the next Kyle Hamilton, guys. Yeah. Devin Witherspoon might be the best player on the Seattle Seahawks.
And I get that, and I understand all the things you're saying. I don't like the D-line.
But you go out, you draft Byron Murphy, right?
That's cool. I didn't love it either.
I liked it a lot.
I think he was the best D-lineman in the draft.
I thought he was. I think it was a good fit.
Did he go for Dallas Turner?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is insane. That's
Leonard Williams.
When you give all that money to Leonard Williams, why do you decide to
double down? You double down, and
they have no presence on the edge. They're going to get dominated on the edge.
Owosu was fine last year. He had 9 sacks. So it's
we're talking about
unrelated to the Phillies guy.
But we're talking about all these great.
Or no, Mafe had 9 sacks.
But we're talking about average offensive. We're talking about they were fine. Then in every other team we're talking about great offensive lines.
Yes.
And good tackles. They're going to have no presence on the edge.
Fine.
Teams are going to be able to run outside runs on this team all.
But what was
McCaffrey is going to have circles around this team.
What did Mike McDonald do in Baltimore last year?
He
took a defensive line that was not talented on paper, and with his style of defense, with the different amount of disguised blitzes and coverages, and he turned it into an elite defense.
I just don't think 30-year-old Leonard Williams is going to be Justin Madubuike. I just don't.
I don't know, man.
But
he's certainly more talented than Madubuike was 2 years ago.
That's fine.
I
just need to see it happen.
Yeah,
I haven't seen.
Show me.
I haven't seen these edge rushers be good at football.
That's fine. We all have them winning 9 games.
I haven't been 8.
You've been winning 8, but
they'll be fine.
I think it's smart to bet on the potential.
I literally mansplained it 20 minutes ago. I'm doing my predictions based on what I have seen on the football field,
and that's fine.
Outside of Leonard Williams, I haven't seen anything.
And that's fine. But I
don't think the linebackers are good.
And that's fine.
So I understand. That's why. But
Yeah.
That's why I'm making my argument.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But I just think that once again we talked about these great offensive lines in this division. There's going to be no edge set. There's going to be no pressure. You're going to have guys like Brock Purdy and Matt Stafford having a lot of time in the pocket, and we're going to have guys like Christian McCaffrey and Kenneth Walker and James Conner who are kind of going to be able to run all over you. In the outside run game, we're going to see a lot of tosses. We're going to see a lot of outside zone. And
unless you expect Devin Witherspoon to have 150 tackles.
I do, because
I love Devin. I love
him. Continue to think back to Ravens Niners on Christmas Day, and what Mike McDonald was able to do in shutting down that run game against an elite offense
with a way better defensive line.
Completely confusing, not on paper, because a year ago we were saying all these same things about the Baltimore Ravens defensive line, and they come out and they turn it around. So we'll go back and get the tape. So
go ahead, put it in the video.
I
have the utmost faith. I do.
Okay. Can we be quick with the 49ers? I feel like this is easy.
Yeah, they'll be really good. Pretty much same team as last year.
They're pretty much the same team, even without Ayuk. Maybe you bump them down to 12-5. I still think they can win 13 games without him, just because of that Kyle Shanahan offense and the way they've been able to develop a lot of receivers.
Yep.
Draft Ricky Pearsall. Right.
Yep.
Pearsall.
Yeah. Dominic Clooney still in the draft.
Yeah. You draft Ricky Pearsall. This is going to be funny, but just the way Juwan Jennings has randomly showed up in big games. I'm not saying these guys are going to match the production of Brandon Ayuk. I'm saying that loss of Brandon Ayuk, a lot of people think, oh my God, this is detrimental. I don't think it is. I think you should try to retain him because Brandon Ayuk is a damn good receiver.
Yeah.
But even if you lose him, it happens.
Yeah, it's still systematically.
It's systematic. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have Brock Purdy, who in my opinion can be a top 10 quarterback in football when he's on. You have a good offensive line.
You have a
top
top two tight end. You have the best lineman on the planet.
Best lineman on the planet. Amazing tight end. Great defense.
Here's my thing.
There's no reason they shouldn't come out of it.
You can miss Ayuk, because I think Ayuk is essentially the luxury in the Shanahan offense. You have Deebo Samuel, who's able to be kind of that hybrid runner. You have McCaffrey, who's as dynamic as he is in the running game and the pass game. Those are essential players to this. Ayuk is simply that go out, win. He's your best overall receiver. He's your best generic offensive weapon. But I think you can win without that.
Yeah, I think you can too.
Where I'm worried now is this Trent Williams stuff. And I think he's going to report, but I think he is the best player.
So,
Pat appears on the podcast.
yeah, welcome to the podcast.
I think he is the best player on this team.
We're gonna cut it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. We're not going to cut it.
And we're gonna be done.
We are not cutting Pat. I think he is the best player on this team, Trent Williams.
Maybe he's the best. Other than Tyreek Hill, probably the best non-quarterback.
Him and Lane Johnson might be up there.
And Penei.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So, I truly believe if he does not play, this is a completely different team. We saw it over those 3 games where he didn't play.
Yeah.
So, that's where I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Right. Defensively, they're going to be better as well.
Yeah, because you have Fufanga back for a full year.
Yeah.
Because he was a first-team All-Pro 2 years ago.
Yep.
And then when you lose it for that year, you're kind of just scrambling, Jair Brown, Penn State legend and all for you, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I think adding Devondre Campbell's sick because you lose Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah.
And
Is he out for the year?
No, he
left?
He left.
Yeah.
Oh, he
No,
left?
he didn't leave. He just might be out
Yeah.
for the year.
That was tragic.
Yeah, it really was.
They would have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And Eric Armstead and Chase Young, it definitely isn't nothing.
Yeah.
But you still have Javon Hargrave and Nick Bosa, which is more than enough.
Yeah.
Most teams would dream to have both of them.
Yeah.
So, I think with
And they just spawned dudes.
Yeah, with an offensive scheme that is just so elite. I don't think Brock Purdy's top 10, but he'll have top 10 production. I know that for a fact.
He will, and I just feel like the way he's developed so well. I feel like a lot of the things we saw out of last year,
Yeah.
we saw what he was 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
then we saw him improve upon those things.
Yeah.
He's only 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He will improve upon these things
He's
again, and he
probably
will keep
younger
getting
than
better.
Michael Penix.
Yeah.
He will eventually, I think at the end of this year, he will be a top 10 quarterback in football.
Yeah. But he's 10.
He'll be like
He
9 or 10.
doesn't elevate a team as much as
He is, yes.
as at least 8 other guys, but
I don't know, man.
But he definitely.
Compared to what the 49ers
Yeah.
have had in that quarterback,
I
room
think
in the
he's
past
been
10
better
years,
for
yes.
them than Jimmy G.
I can't do the Brock Purdy debate another year. I think he's a solid,
Yeah, he's
top
solid.
12 quarterback, and
That's
it's
what we'll
enough
say.
for this offense.
That's what I'm saying.
I think
That's
I
what
don't.
we all
yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
If you think Brock Purdy's a bad football player, and you think like I've seen so many people say he's bad, he benefits from the system. Yes, he benefits the system.
Yes, but
if you don't think Brock
if he
Purdy's
fits the
good,
system, then why?
If you don't think Brock
just do
Purdy's
it.
good, you're an idiot.
Yep.
You're an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Tua thing. If your system if your quarterback fits the system, then run it back.
But I think Brock Purdy's a better overall quarterback.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
Alright.
Okay. We're done with the NFC.
We are done with the NFC.
We're done with everything.
Should
We're
we
done
do
with
the Super-
playoffs.
just do
And
the
now-
Super-
I think we should just do the Super Bowl because you have to go to work. I got to go to work.
But there's that. But I
Also-
didn't think we were gonna share the entirety of the playoffs anyway.
No. Okay. Who do you have in the Super Bowl?
I'll do my last.
Really
I'll do
quick.
mine last because mine's obscure.
Okay. Lions, Chiefs, 3-peat.
Okay. I have Packers, Chiefs, 3-peat.
I have neither. I have none of those teams in the Super Bowl. I have 49ers, Bengals. Joe Shiesty comes out on top. I'm just yes, I know it hasn't been perfect. The last year obviously wasn't perfect. This is the last year now you're running it back with the core offense, unless you somehow figure out a way to retain Jamar Chase and T Higgins, which you don't.
I don't think
you do.
Probably keeping Jamar.
Joe Burrow is amazing. The O-line got so much better. I think you're going to miss Joe Mixon a bit, but I like
Zach Moss.
Zach
Chase Brown.
Zach Moss and Chase Brown are going to match the production,
Yep.
just not
Yeah,
as
yeah,
one
absolutely.
individual player. I like the defense. I said this when we talked about it the other night. They play their best football in January
Yep.
and February. They have consistently showed up and kicked ass, and they have just played, and they have given everybody a run for their money. There's never been a game where they haven't. In the Joe Burrow era, there's never been a game that they haven't been in January. And if it wasn't for one of the worst and most undisciplined penalties on Joseph Asai in the AFC Championship game a year and a half ago, they could have been to the Super Bowl last year. You never know what happens. They play their best football. I think they run through. I think like the arc is the same. You have Burrow coming off an injury and what ended up being a disappointing season when it could have been promising last year. And that's what happened in 2020. Joe Burrow got hurt and all that, and then they made the Super Bowl the next year. And I feel like we're going to be looking at something very similar. It is kind of like when we talk about how like in baseball, like the Dodgers aren't built for October, but the last 2 years the Phillies have been built for October. And NBA teams like Miami might not be the best in the regular season, but come playoff time, Miami has been, even since LeBron left, Miami is built for June basketball. Like, that is what I think of when I think about the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think they're very good. So I have them winning the Super Bowl this year against the San Francisco 49ers, who I think are the Dodgers of the NFL. They're not built for January football. However, I think the NFC will be a cakewalk for them because I feel like they match up well against every AFC team.
Yeah, I mean, to keep it short and sweet.
However, I do respect Kansas City, and just for the sake of like not being generic, did not pick them, even though I think they're the favorite. But
yeah, I mean, to keep it short and sweet, they're pretty much retaining everything offensively and just getting better. I think last year's Chiefs team was probably the worst we're going to see within this decade of championships, and they still won. So I expect them to be here once again. On the Green Bay side, I think this is everything you would look for. We've seen so many teams across the past couple of years check the boxes as far as that upside team in the NFC. That young rookie quarterback on that rookie deal with everything around him. They've shown playoff success. I expect them to make the jump this season.
Yeah, and I mean, for the Lions, I just think that it was sort of nightmare ending in the NFC Championship. Like, they should have won.
Yeah.
And when you add Terry Arnold and Carlson Davis to that team, I think they will probably end up being the best, just coming out of the NFC. I think I have them as like the 3 seed because I have the Eagles as the 2, but the same record total 5. But yeah, they're another team that's like built for the playoffs. Like,
I also think with the Lions, I didn't say this when we talked about them. If Dan Campbell can figure out how to properly utilize Jameson Williams, then that puts them over the edge. I think they win the NFC.
Right.
Because I know that it hasn't shown. There's just been everything weird that could have happened in Jameson Williams' career since the championship game against Georgia has happened, between ridiculous betting scandals, torn ACLs. Like, the talent is still there, and it showed up in flashes in games. We obviously saw it when he broke out for a huge touchdown against the 49ers in the NFC Championship. Like, if they could figure out how to properly utilize them, it's still game changing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a Broad Street Benchwarmers podcast if Michael Cornwell did not sneak in a Jameson Williams bet. So,
are we doing awards?
I gotta run to work, dude.
Well, Josh Allen, we know this is gonna happen. So.
Yep.
I'll save it for now.
Thank you guys for listening as always. We will be back soon. Gracias.